We understand you have a lot of choices in the mornings, and including podcasts and schmodcasts and everything else. So thank you for staying with Idaho's first media outlet. Well, I guess you could say the paper was the first, but first electronic outlet, over 100 years serving the Treasure Valley in the state of Idaho. 580 KIDO. Lots of great stories on our website. We'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. The big news coming out of yesterday was the President of the United States talking about vaccines. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. And, of course, take your calls about the issues that matter to you. We'll take a look at some local headlines. And like I said, never a dull moment when we're looking at the president and, of course, the White House and the challenges with the Iranians. It's fascinating. I have to tell you something now. Don't think that I've gone wacko on you, because my first love has always been radio. But I did this weird thing yesterday. And Bo told me about this years ago. And I go, oh, YouTube, schmootube. And people just love YouTube. And to me, I've kind of used YouTube because you can get the Kevin Miller Show on YouTube. And it's not video of me. It's just the show. But it's funny. They say 70% of the people that are on YouTube get it for the audio. And so I've been doing that, and I was cooking and doing some meal prep and washing some dishes and stuff. And I was sitting there, listening to various commentators. So I'm looking at YouTube, and of course, Nick Fuentes is not on YouTube, and he says a lot of horrific things and all sorts of nonsense. And then I was watching a guy who put him on YouTube, but did the commentary thing. So it really wasn't him. So I went to Rumble, and I watched Nick Fuentes, and then I watched Chuck Todd. And eventually, they were almost saying the same thing concerning the war in Iran. You know, everybody says that, well, the president should just give up. The president should just move on. I don't know if people truly understand the consequences of what we're in. Yes, we have very, 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 how should I put this? The standards of military competency when it comes to the public are not as high as those people that do it professionally. But at 580-5436-580-KIDO, the issue being that we're in this thing, and there's rumors now that the president may try to get out of this and declare victory and leave. I don't think that he can. And it really comes down to the president doing the right thing. The right thing with taking on the mullahs, taking on the enemy. And the press here, because they don't like this president, they don't like the fact that he has, given another perspective to the woke agenda. They are cheering for the enemy. And I'm watching these Democratic lawmakers, and out of their ignorance going, well, we just need to get out of it. The Iranians are not going to let us out of it. And we are at a stalemate. Now, again, we could put more pressure on them, and then they could put more pressure on the Gulf allies. And it really comes down to whether you're working out, whether you're in the sauna with Al, whether you're whatever you are, is your tolerance for pain and tolerance for suffering. And if you truly believe, as Kevin Miller does, that these people will kill us because they've said they will kill us, then you got to figure out a way to take them down. And the fact that we're advertising, repeatedly advertising that we're out of missiles is absurd, crazy, and irresponsible. Absurd, crazy, and irresponsible. And yet that's what this media is doing. That's what exactly what this media continues to do, because they don't like the war. They don't like the president. They don't like anything else associated with this, which makes me truly, truly wonder, whose side are they on? They're not on our side. They're definitely not on our side. So that's where we begin. Also, the president made some comments concerning vaccinations. We'll talk a little bit about that. I think everybody in Idaho will be very happy about that, except for the liberal loons. Also, there was a story that broke late last night with the Washington Post. We'll tell you a little bit about that. Picked up by the New York Times. And again, it shows you just how much these people don't like the president. So if you haven't heard because you have a life, and I understand that, I really miss going for walks. And, indoor walking and walking up and down the steps can only do so much. But, because of the air quality, and apparently we're supposed to have a break Thursday and Friday. Bo, we're going to get some thunderstorms, allegedly. Let's hope that it stops this big grass fire over 500,000 acres. That's 8 square miles, which is just insane. Props to all those firefighters that are risking their lives, doing their very best. This is just insane what's going on. And, hopefully that weather pattern will knock it out. But the reason why the president was so upset about the Washington Post story concerning the plane. The Washington Post broke the story that the threat was so grave to the president that the president of the United States was shuffled away. It was a bait and switch. He got on Air Force One, and they report that he got on a catering truck and then went to an undisclosed plane to fly out of there. And last night I'm sitting there, and you don't know these people, Caitlin Collins, who is, again, very young, dynamic lady, but very limited by her life experience. And so she's grilling people. Sorry, non-COVID sneeze, smoke-induced sneeze. So she's grilling people about, the media, we should have told the media, and David Axelrod is on, it should have been embargoed. No, we're talking about a threat against the president of the United States. So the media gets on Air Force One, the president doesn't. Then they switch in, Germany or England, and they go back on Qatar One. But the whole thing about, he didn't let us know. Well, no, of course he didn't let you know. And people are calling him, all sorts of names. Of course they're going to call him names. But in reality, the president of the United States, his life was in jeopardy, and now we have our media exposing this and ripping him. And it just seems rather crazy when you're thinking about this. Amazing when you're thinking about, we've got him now, and they're calling him names and such. His life was threatened. And whatever happened to my country, right or wrong, which is just crazy. And it was crazy, I know, on television last night as well.
Some work to do. Yeah. Had Haley Stevens won that primary, she would also have had work to do, particularly with Arab Americans in the state that has the highest per capita population of Arab Americans in the country, who believe that the Biden administration disgraced itself on Gaza.
She would have one less work to do because she'd have all the moderates voting for her.
Reported concerns for human rights, all the while shoveling weapons to Mr. Netanyahu with which to kill 70,000
Palestinians. You guys are like very concerned.
It always goes back to the Jews, every single time, which is a perfect example of some of what you're talking about, like the coded language and whatnot. El Sayed has brought up AIPAC and brings it up absolutely every single time he can, because he wants to talk about the Jews and the people that you're talking about. That Haley Stevens,
because they support the most right-wing government in Israel's history.
Oh my God!
They're Jews.
We understand that Ireland cares a lot about Palestine, but
because we don't like
here, all right?
In Michigan, most people don't actually give a shit. People about
Palestine. We're doing this 10 seconds around the table.
People in Michigan.
And that's what happens when Abby Phillips takes some time off from CNN. You've got this mad Irishman from The Hill magazine denouncing people that are doing their very best to keep themselves safe. And then you have this kid from the Manhattan Institute who really stole the show last night. And again, it's a table of five. Everybody argues. Jason Rantz coming in talking about the Israelis, the Jewish people, and how people attack them again and again and again. Again, going back to this war in the Middle East, and what they said about the president was very disconcerting. He got into a plane, he did all these things. Well, yes. What was he supposed to do? Be a target? What was he supposed to do? let them, take him down. That's what, when you go on military planes and you're not a member of the military, when you're embedded, you understand there are certain risks. And yet here we have people that are using this big story from the Washington Post. And again, like I said, good journalism, sure. But, and we've seen this in movies quite a bit. Have you ever had a chance to get something, but the cost of it was too much? The cost of it was, it just wasn't worth it. And it could be a great story. I will say this. There was a person years ago who was a giant in this industry. And the person passed away. And this person was a very famous actor. And this person was very, very close to Mrs. Miller. His family was. And I pray for this. I don't think I've met this individual, but I pray for him all the time. His grandfather was George Kennedy. He was very close to Mr. Kennedy. And you remember Mr. Kennedy lived around here before he passed away. And it was the start of the click season. It was the start of, again, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. It's going to digital, but it is radio, but it's that, the other. Anyway, I mean, we take a look at just everybody uses their phones as we did with our AM transistor radios back in the day. And it was a big deal when you had FM, and then it was a big deal with the Walkman. From what I think, and what I hear, Gen Z or Gen Alpha is actually going back to like cassettes and 8-track and vinyl. And God bless you guys. God bless you kids. So anyway, George Kennedy passed away. And his grandson contacted Mrs. Miller. And Mrs. Miller, unlike Kevin Miller, has a huge heart and, sent condolences and everything else. And, I'm thinking to myself, I go, wow, I could get this story, TMZ, all this stuff. And I go, oh, no, that's our family friend. This is a person who suffered a loss. And it comes a point with the media, and it comes a point in your career, it comes a point with your kids, it comes a point with everything else that you have to say to yourselves, is it really worth it when it comes to the coverage that's going on? And like I said, this great story, we'll break it down for you in a minute in totality. By the way, I do want to remind you, our great friends at Peak Health Idaho, thank you very much for sponsoring this portion of the program. PeakHealthIdaho.com. We'll tell you a little bit more about them in a minute. Had an incredible experience with them last week. I know I've been telling you about that. And it was just amazing. And I've got my little monitor, and I'm monitoring my sugar. And in the anyway, let's get back. I know, I'm a little ADD this morning. Let's get back to, here we have Air Force One not flying with the president, with the media on it. And now people are saying, well, the media was a diversion. Yes, and so was everybody else to save the life of the president. That's where we are.
He did speak to reporters on the way back once he got on the Qatari plane. But when they asked him about, was this because of a specific threat, he just talked about the Iranians generally and then said, well, I wasn't asked to lower my window shade like the reporters were on that plane. I mean, David, when you listen to this and you look at this, this made me think of Garrett Graff's book, Only Plane in the Sky, about a detailed, timeline of what happened on 9/11. And Ann Compton was one of the reporters on Air Force One. And I believe she's quoted in it where a White House press aide is telling them something's off the record. And she says this can't be off the record because this is, of the utmost importance in terms of what is happening here during this historic event of 9/11, even as that day was still unfolding and people were still learning about what exactly had happened. I mean, to your point about why the press is always with the president when he travels.
Well, we're going to get back to that in a minute. By the way, Caitlin, you were about 5 years old during September 11th. I remember because Ann Compton was reporting for ABC News before ABC News became wokey, and we ran them out of Idaho because we would carry Ann Compton. We would have her on all the time. So I remember her reporting for Air Force One. She didn't say, hey, I'm in the air. We're over Utah right now. There was a time when we didn't know where the president was. So the creative rewriting of history always amazes me, especially when it comes to football, when they talk about, well, Walter Payton was overrated, Jim Brown was overrated. No, they weren't. They were great running backs. And again, we're all captive of our times, just like people are captive of today. But the idea that Ann Compton stood up to people, nobody stood up to me. We did not know where the president was. And then he appeared, I think, in Omaha, Nebraska or something like that. We never really, the idea that Ann Compton stood up to people. No, she didn't. A great reporter, outstanding individual. But it's not like she stood up to everybody. And, if the life of the president is being threatened, as the Washington Post and New York Times, so aggressively are reporting, then you make sure that you save the life of the president. And the more concerning thing is what do the Iranians have, or we thought they had, or they were going to implement, that could take down Air Force One? And by the way, better safe than sorry. Better safe than sorry when it comes down to this. And then you had somebody on CNN going, well, he brought this on himself because he wanted to fly his little plane. No, he didn't. He didn't bring it on himself. What he did was he did the right thing. And I'm sure that was not something that he wanted to do. By the way, we do have professional journalists here at 580 KIDO from Fox News. Let's hear what Alex Hogan has to say. He'll actually frame the story correctly.
This reported maneuver would mean that the president's actual location was not disclosed to the American people or other U.S. officials for at least hours. Trump boarded the old Air Force One jumbo jet, leaving the NATO summit in Turkey. The Washington Post reporting because of an Iranian threat, the president was shuttled away in an airport catering truck. Those are typically used to move meals and other supplies on board pre-flight. Fox has not been able to independently confirm that, but according to the Post, the president was then taken to a different, smaller plane, an Air Force C-32A. That made Air Force One a decoy with media and some White House staff aboard.
Right, and Alex is a woman. Yes. Well, thank you for that, Sweet William. So people are, using this and saying, well, the press has a right to know. No, the press doesn't have a right to know on this one. But again, this is the latest controversy. Never mind the terrorism, never mind anything else. By the way, I think we'll play that Tim Sheehy clip again while we get some calls this morning on why this is so important.
Yeah, I think things can be embargoed. I think reporters understood. Look, their own safety was at stake as well. Reporters understood that there were reasons why there are elements of that trip that needed to be kept under wraps until after the president was safely in and out of those places. But the thing here that's a little disturbing is that if the president if they needed to take such extraordinary steps to protect the president because the threat level was so high, the American people deserve to know that the threat level was that high in this particular case, that he had to take such an extraordinary measure. And then the other piece of it is that, in fact, everyone on that plane was a decoy. If they felt that it was unsafe to be on the plane, then it was unsafe for everybody else to be on the plane as well. So they at least deserve to know, if not then after, why this was happening.
Yeah, because obviously if the plane was the target because the president was on board, and the idea was still that the president was on board, which is what everyone thought,
yeah,
it would still have been a target.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Caitlin. That's just the way the game is played. So we'll get your reaction to this breathtaking story. We've got to make sure that how about we have somebody inside Iran to find out how bad they're suffering? Huh? Why don't we have that? Is that too much to ask? Let me tell you something about our friends at Peak Performance Healthcare. peakhealthidaho.com, or you can call them if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, 683-7325. That's 683-7325. I told you I was doing my VO2 Max, and my man Sean, who has forgotten more things than I'll ever know concerning getting yourself healthy, and we were going to do the VO2 Max, and, we did one before, but we wanted to be extra cautious, so we were going to do another one. And we put that mask on, and you could see your heart rate going up, and I go, man, I just can't do this. He goes, Kevin, no worries, we're going to do it another way. And it really made my day because Sean understood a little anxiety. And it's tough to admit when you get anxiety. The old days, we'd smoke a pack of Marlboros, eat the bacon, and drive on. Today, people are more understanding. So when we're talking about taking care of yourself, we're talking about peak personalized healthcare. It's led by Dr. Eric Lau. Dr. Eric Lau, physician-led longevity medicine. When you're thinking about Peter Attia and what to eat, what not to eat, the impacts of exercise, the impacts of food on you, visceral fat, which is the type of fat you can't see, they can see it because they have this thing called the DEXA body scan. DEXA, VO2 max, comprehensive biomarkers, IV therapy, all these things you read about that really can help you. Or if psychologically you need some help, like Kevin Miller, they're there for you. And if you want to live and you think to yourself, my goodness gracious, the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years, I haven't taken care of myself. What can I do to be proactive to try to get rid of some of this, the things that I've done, the cake that I've eaten, the ice cream that I've eaten, maybe even figure out why going to the gym might seem intimidating, or what type of workout is optimal for me. I went there. I got my little thing. Beverly wasn't there, but I know Beverly listens. Hello, Beverly. I got my little tag, and Roxy put it on, and I'm watching my blood sugar go up and down and trying to keep it in the target zone. Now, before Dr. Lau, I was diabetic and pre-diabetic. Now I'm not. I've got a more comprehensive knowledge of what I'm eating and what I'm doing and the impact of, and if you don't take anything away from this, if you don't call Peak Health Idaho at 683-7325, let me just say this. Take a walk after you eat. It doesn't have to be intense, but that helps you with your blood sugar. It's amazing. I'm looking at my monitor right now, and I did a little exercise after I ate. My blood sugar was almost at the top of the zone, went down to right in the middle. And that can happen to you. Take a look at it. We're talking about stuff that maybe you can get in Salt Lake. I don't think you can get it here. Boston Heart cholesterol balance and fatty acid balance, genetic testing, coronary calcium score, finding out about lipids. I had a lipid issue because I took statins, and what I found is you got to take some vitamin B, a specific type of vitamin B. So I'm doing that. 683-7325. Please tell them you heard it from Kevin Miller, 683-7325. So what have we learned so far this morning? We've learned that there was a secret flight with the president on it. The libs are going, ha, 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 ha. We have a big primary season tonight, kind of like a precursor to football season. It's primary night in America. We'll tell you a little bit about that. The Iranians want a lot of things. Remember that old saying in one of those movies, I want a lot of things. Well, they want reparations. We'll detail that as well. And remember, school is starting, so please be very, very careful. School is starting. Please be very, very careful. And as I said before, nobody wants to be negligent. Nobody wants to hurt anybody. Even the crazy, wacky, zany tailgaters. So please be careful. The kids are back in school. And obviously, props to the parents, the teachers, the administrators, the support staff, everybody that does their very best to keep our kids healthy, safe, and educated. Kevin Miller, 580, going on and on and on concerning vaccines. We'll talk a little bit about that. That was a big issue here and still is if you listen to this program. Many people are critical of him, but he's doing what he said he would do. He said that he was going to reform healthcare. He was going to reform all sorts of things, and he decided to do that. And yet, now we have people attacking him and saying, well, the vaccine's this, the vaccine's that. Elections have consequences. And the president of the United States has made statements, and we'll get to that in a minute. I do want to remind you, our friend Dennis Mansfield will join us coming up next hour. We're going to talk to Dennis. We'll also give you a preview of the Albertsons Open with Dave Petso, helping wonderful local charities like the West Valley Humane Society, the Boise Rescue Mission, the Idaho Humane Society. Most of that money, if not all of it, goes to local charities. So thank you, Albertsons. Thank you, everyone who is taking part in that. So Dave Petso will join us. We'll talk about the economy and the rising cost of oil and the Iranians moving the goalposts. Let's move on. Let's go to Ben in Idaho City with Kevin Miller on 580 KIDO. Ben, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Hey, just wanted to talk about the Iran thing. I feel like with Trump, he never says the right thing, but he always does the right thing. With Obama, looking back, it was always he said the right thing, but he'd never do the right thing. And I think what we're missing with this Iran thing is we're focusing so much on these minute-to-minute changes and these minute-to-minute headlines when we really need somebody who's kind of like Dave Petso that can see that long-term story of where Iran's been and where their connection is to us and the world. One of our favorite shows we've been watching recently is Madam Secretary with Téa Leoni. And if you look back, I think it was filmed in 2015, 2016. Are you familiar with that one?
I am. I'm familiar with it. I haven't seen it because I have a bias towards when the leads are all female. I'll at least admit that to you, Ben.
And this is actually one of the reasons I like bringing this one up is that I don't think that she would be a huge Trump fan or a huge Republican fan. She tries to stay out of that, and they deal with all kinds of other non-Republican theories. But when you look at the way that they bring up Iran and China and Russia, but Iran especially in this show, it gives you a feel of just how Iran's never going to back down. They're the thug that's following you down the street and you're trying to get away from them and you turn into a dark alley that's got a dead end and you realize I'm at the dead end. You turn around and they're sitting there, they ain't moving. And I think Trump knows this, but we're not doing a very good job of sharing that story, the history of how this has been getting pushed down this road for a long time. And I think that focusing on the headlines and the, like you said, the minute by minute things just kind of takes away from the reality of this story has been coming to this point for a long time. And to let Trump know people have his back, we're hopefully not focusing just on the people on TikTok and YouTube and, trying to get your attention, but this story is deeper than that. So anyway, just wanted to let you know, I'm one of your plumber fans, but we have his back. I think he never says the right thing, but he does the right thing. So, yeah. Well,
first of all, Ben, thank you for your work as a plumber. We appreciate that. We love plumbers and all that they do. But the media is, cheering for the other team. It's like the official is, with the other team, it seems. All right, Ben, thank you for the call. Appreciate you. Be safe in Idaho City. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And going on what Ben has said, no, I totally agree with him on this. The Iranians, they might have only one leg and one arm working, but they're still going to follow you.
Monday, President Trump responded to Iranian demands for compensation in order to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
They asked for money for the damage that we've done. I said, that's a good idea. Well, we're going to ask for money for the damage they've done over a 50-year period.
President Trump also posted on Truth Social in part saying, but it is an interesting idea because now I am likewise demanding compensation from Iran for all of the people that they have killed and gravely wounded with their roadside bombs and many conflicts for which they are famous, as led initially by General Soleimani, including the families of those killed on the USS Cole and thousands of others killed in combat.
He brings it home right there. It's too bad the media has not picked up on that because that is the truth. Peak Health Idaho, sponsor of this portion of the program, 683-7325. Give them a call today. 580-KIDO. Let's get you to work. Hey, IDO. Sean will be taking your calls about the issues that matter to you today at 1. And before that, we have the Clay and the Buck, and they just continue to knock it out of the park. Whether it's... and what's really getting scary here is how Clay and Buck have become part of the national conversation. And you're going to go, well, Kevin Miller, what do you mean? This whole WNBA thing. You think to yourself, well, why is that in the news all of a sudden? Well, it started with, and again, the WNBA, and even Lars Larson was talking about it yesterday, the WNBA has not done themselves any favors. But the guys that have been looking at the hypocrisy of men playing in a women's league and bringing it up seemingly daily in a rightful, critical yet respectful way is the Clay and the Buck. And those two have been all over the story. Again, whether it's Clay trying to buy a team, the guy who was, one of the first picks in the NBA draft, declaring himself that he's eligible for the WNBA draft or anything else. This is amazing. Anyway, Clay and Buck today at 10 right here at 580 KIDO. Big day in the country. The primaries are wrapping up. Here's again Alex Hogan, female, not male, with the very latest.
Fraud has been a hot topic in this race. Another big race in the state is the GOP primary for governor. Candidates include MyPillow founder Mike Lindell, who was backed by President Trump, Minnesota House Speaker Lisa DeMuth, and veteran Kendall Quayles. Amy Klobuchar is expected to win the Democratic nomination. Now, moving over to Wisconsin, where that governor's race is getting a lot of attention as well. Among the candidates, there's Representative Francesca Hong, the frontrunner, and Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, who is now backed by outgoing Governor Tony Evers. Francesca Hong could become the first Democratic Socialist governor in the U.S.
Right. Crazy when you're thinking about this. So we've got more primaries coming up. The primary season will wind up very soon. And what does that mean for everybody else? That means the midterms. And if you watch any of these shows, they're saying to yourself, they're going, look, the midterms are what's going to determine things. And as we heard yesterday from the co-chairman of the RNC, the Democrats don't have any money. The Democrats have no money. Now, they have messaging, they have the media, they have a lot of things. But when it comes to boots on the ground, maybe the special interest can help. Maybe somebody else can do this. I don't know. But if we're looking at it purely from a monetarily point of view, they had to take out a whatchamacallit on their house, on their building, which is wild when you think about it. So money can't buy you love. Money can't buy you politics. And we're going to see how it plays out here. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. When we're looking at this issue involving the war. And people are saying it's time for us to get out. I don't think that is an option. And whether you're a Democratic senator on MS Now or CNN or Fox News or wherever, that option just simply does not exist. And when we're taking a look at why this is important, nobody has really shared that in quite a long time, why this is so important, that this is a war of his choosing. Those arguments are so simple, so irrelevant, so not true in this case. And yet here we have the country being ill-informed on this. So what we'll do is Tim Sheehy got on the Senate floor, and it's a very, very powerful speech. And Sheehy served Navy SEAL, I believe, said it like it is. And he's going on Fox News and stuff, a senator out of Montana, and talking about the cult of death that is the Iranians. We're going to share that with you coming up. First, what we're going to do here is we'll take some more calls. And again, Senator Sheehy, yes, a Navy SEAL. And we'll share that with you in a minute. But first, we live to serve. We go to Denny in Nampa with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. Hello, Denny.
Kevin and KIDO. Hey, 580. Kevin, I think the press forgets that I think a lot of them have to sign a paper when they go on Air Force One, especially when they are assigned the president, that they could be targeted. How many press people have suddenly disappeared that were doing stories in Mexico and other foreign countries over the years? You don't hear from them, and their agency says, we don't know where so-and-so is. So, with him saying what they are, national security comes first with our President of the United States. And then the other thing I want to throw out with all these politicians that are supposed to be socialists, I ran across an article last night, 1954. Dwight D. Eisenhower wrote into a law, no communist in the United States. Why has not the GOP brought that out during this campaign season with all these socialists, communist, Democrats? 1954. That's 2 years after I was born. How about that? And I know some of the other older folks like myself, Eisenhower was a former general of the United States in World War II, very popular. So he knew about communism quite a bit. So we might have the GOP, even here in Idaho, look that up. Crapo and some of the others might throw that out during the election season. And some of the other people in Washington needs to research that. 1954, Dwight D. Eisenhower speech about no communism and put it into law. So you have a great day, Kevin, and I hope Bob and some of the other people and maybe Mark and Emmett might check on that with his resources to fact check it. 1954, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Appreciate you. Denny, God bless, my best to you and your wife, and hope everything is well.
Yeah, well, we're going to see a doctor today on some issues. So hopefully things keep, so far it's coming out, progress is about as well as you're losing your weight. I'm anxious to see you at an event when we can all click together again.
Thank you, Denny. God bless. Phone numbers here, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, 580-KIDO.
KIDO Talk Radio.
Al in Ontario. Al, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, war is a fact of life. Unfortunately, what we have are the Marxist feminists running the United States of America. It's a shame that this nation has been destroyed by these Marxist feminists. And, they've taken over everything. And the school system, the educational industrial complex, like Bob was saying yesterday, the educational system is just a mess. But kids were promised jobs. Who promised kids jobs? How can you promise people jobs in a free market? I mean, it's ridiculous. And so, they don't understand anything about war. And you should understand something about war if, you go to high school. You should take courses about, what causes the war. When do you go to war? When do you go to war? People don't even know this. When vital national security interests are at stake. And what is the vital national security interest their genius is? You don't know. It's the gas station of the world, right? It's the gas station of the world. The Straits of Hormuz. Kevin, how many times had I talked to you about the Straits of Hormuz way before anybody even knew what the name was? How many times? A lot. In fact, my black brother that I've been around for 26 years, I talked to him, and what he told me, he says, he says, when they started talking about the Straits of Hormuz, I already knew about it because you told me everything about it. You see, what you have to do is you have to get an education. You have to be an autodidact, but we don't do that. And everybody, the kids were promised jobs. This is idiocy. No, the engine of socialism is not the fact that the kids don't have jobs. The idiocy is that the educational industrial complex has had the kids drink the Kool-Aid that you can actually make a living with your mind. Everybody can do that. No, only probably 5% of the kids in high school can actually go out, who understand, how to do calculus, how to do various types of ththings like that, can make their living STEM. Maybe on the other side of the house, which would be education, that's like psychology and all these other things, you probably get about 10, 15, 20% there. What the thing about it is, nobody wants to work. How many mechanics can you find? Okay, an ASC certified mechanic for Ford will make $150,000 a year. Okay, but we can't find them. You can't get people. Why? Oh, well, you're being taken advantage of if you actually work. No. Why don't you go to work and actually do like we all used to do in the old days and bust your rear end in manual labor because you do not have enough mental capacity to go out into the world and actually make a living. So what do you have to do? Logic and reason would say, well, wait a minute. My brain can't make me all this money. So what I have to do is go out and work physical manual labor. And you do that until you can save up enough money and figure out using logic and reason how you can at some point use your mind, become a rent seeker and actually make some money. But no, we're not there. And so, it's our educational system once again. If you're going to get on the plane with the president of the United States and you don't know you're a target, you're an idiot. Okay, that's just the way that goes. Okay, they got raw gear, radar homing and warning. I think they call it something else these days. But yeah, you they all have this gear, and of course you can figure out where are the threats coming from, where are the threats at. But the thing is, we have completely destroyed our country, and the people don't even know how we're being destroyed. We get this one guy who's, he used the most filthy language there is. And, he says, well, what we're going to do is we're going to destroy the white race. We're going to, blank the sisters and daughters and destroy the white race. Well, wait, let's look at what is he talking about when he's saying the white race? Is he talking about what people look like? Of course not. He's talking about the Western culture, Western tradition. Now, are most of the people who are in line, in sync with the Western culture, white people who look Caucasian? Yes, but not all of them. And the thing about it, they do really good at making progress and destroying Western civilization.
Country, traveling the world, traveling the state. Dennis, always great to have you on with us. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Kevin. It's great to be with you.
Well, what we love about you is you're an early morning riser, so that's that's what we appreciate, Dennis. So here we are.
I love it. I love being with you this early.
The world is going crazy, and you are engaged in an educational campaign, a spiritual campaign to really make the world a better place.
It's been an extension of the things over these last 35, 40 years that I've just been really thinking, how crazy is it? I think back to during the times of Reagan and so forth. It seems like ancient history to a lot of people who are listening right now. But man, I lived it. I was there. I was involved helping people get elected, helping people overcome public policy problems. And I've come to the conclusion that as bad as it is, and as terrible as it seems, that these are the times that we're gifted by God to be able to do the best we can with what we've got in the middle of it, that each of us have the opportunity with our neighbor, our friends, working associates, to be able to speak common sense in a kind way to people who are starving for not just truth, but in reality, an opportunity to think deeper than they currently do.
Well, and especially when we're talking about the Middle East and we're talking about Israel, that we have a lot of deep thinkers and not so deep thinkers lately.
Yeah, we really do. In fact, I was thinking about it the other day. Back in 1995, way back in 1995, I had the opportunity for the first time of going to Israel and to Egypt, and I remember at the time thinking, well, this ought to be interesting. It's probably so completely different than anything I've ever lived in and seen and so forth. All those thoughts that any of us would have the first time of going to the Middle East. And in reality, I remember getting off the plane. In those days, you would literally get off the plane on the tarmac. There were no gates that you went up to in Tel Aviv. You just got on a bus, and then there was safety precautions and all that stuff. And I remember thinking, man, this looks like Southern California. I'm not kidding. And the palm trees, the weather, just the vibe. And as on that particular first trip, I happened to be the guest of a young man that I was mentoring, and a businessman from Micron, someone who was taking his family to Israel. His name's Russ Fulcher. And Russ said, Dennis, I just want you to be able to feel, touch, see, and smell the reality of life in the Middle East. I don't know that Russ had been there many times, but I know together we explored that whole region and saw the similarities of what people want, people need, people care for, rather than attempting to examine all the differences. You know, of course there are differences. Their headgear and their clothes and their food and their speaking patterns and all those things. But man, they were still moms and dads wanting the best for their kids. There were still brides getting ready to be married and people starting businesses. And it really hit me in a deep way, the similarity of the people in the Middle East and us. Now, granted, there are a lot of differences. I'm not masking over those, but the similarities impacted me. And as a result of that, in the 8 times that I've gone now since then, it has only reinforced the idea of people want shalom, people want peace, people want salam, they want peace. It's the issue of whether the public policy leaders can even talk to one another to be able to then give them the policy-oriented peace that's needful. And quite frankly, it seems like it's getting crazier. Certainly we look at Iran and we see all the back and forth herky-jerky motion of both that nation as well as what appears to be at times the president's policy. But I'm convinced that with that true north, which is we don't want the opposite of peace. We do not want horrendous war. We do not want a continuation of what's been happening, that we will in fact get there. It'll be a slow process, but we will get there.
Yeah, well, Dennis, what are you doing for the Jewish people in Israel, Dennis? I mean, that was a long-winded thing, and again, it was a great depth thing, and I go, hey, I gave him this, simpleton short intro because comparatively, I'm the simp here, and I'm going, Russ Fulcher this guy is a great writer. He's wonderful, and I go, wait a minute. Tell us about your work in Israel, please, sir.
Sure, we'll do. I guess probably a year ago or so, I had a wonderful guy out of Deer Flat Church, Pastor Dave McGarrah, come to me and he said, Dennis, I'm going to be resigning my position as the head of Christians United for Israel, and I'd like you to take it over. And, over that cup of hot chocolate at Starbucks, a bit of my life was changed. I came home, talked to Susan, my bride, and we said, yeah, let's do it, which means that I am now, along with my coaching and the other things that I do for a living, I'm getting near retirement, Kevin, I'm helping pastors from all over Idaho learn more about Israel, the components of Israel, the importance theologically of Israel, while I take them to Israel, starting first by going to Poland. So we traveled to Poland. I did this last November. We were there for 4 or 5 days, meeting key leaders, understanding the complex issues of anti-Semitism that occurred in 1938, 39, and 40, and then taking these pastors over to Israel and walking them through the northern, southern, and up back through Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. And it's been remarkable. The men from Idaho that went with me their minds were like, holy cow, I never knew. I had this presupposition, but man, I've walked on the roads. I've met with the people. I'm starting to get this. And key to all of it, I'm going again in November and taking a number of Idaho pastors to Poland and then to Israel. And it's a movement of thought to be able to say, look what happened in 30, 38, 39, and 40, and look at the level of anti-Semitism in America today. And what are you, Pastor, doing to speak about it?
Sure.
It's the pulpits of America where the truth has to resonate.
Right. And Dennis, when you take these folks to Poland, and you contrast that with the Nick Fuenteses of the world, the Tucker Carlsons of the world, and other people that are not fans of Israel, the Israeli government, the Jewish state. How do you combat that? I mean, you got Al Sayed in Michigan and Al-Pac this, Ali-Pac, whatever it is, and it's the little code as they talk, the red herring, if you will, to be anti-Semitic. So what? And there are a lot of people that love America that are Christians that are very skeptical of Israel and what they're doing now.
Well, certainly, I think that, first off, we have to start with a theological bent, looking at it from a perspective of what have we as Americans, pretty much all of our country's history, felt towards the idea of Israel, the Jewish community, the idea of ultimately developing a state, having it birthed in one day, fulfilling Scripture, where in Isaiah 66 it says, can a nation be born in one day? Can it be brought forth? The rhetorical answer is yes, it will be. And it was in May of 1948 when Israel was given the chance to be birthed by the entire United Nations. Now think about this. Russia, USSR, voted with America in order to allow the nation of Israel to be born. The reality of the world saying yes after the Holocaust, look what happened, look what must occur, let us support Israel. To today, when it becomes fashionable for what I believe, and again, you mentioned Fuentes and Tucker, it's sort of like a commodity for consumption by people who are looking for, as they were in 1938 and 39, a scapegoat to be able to say, look at the damn whoever it happens to be, fill in the blank, whoever the object of their anger is. What I've seen is get in a plane and go to Israel. Do not just go to the airport like Carlson did, take pictures and then leave, Go in and walk through the old city. Look at the cousins. That's what they call each other, the Jews and the Arabs. This is my cousin. He has a shop over there. You can buy those things there, or you can buy them over here at another cousin. They walk and live and talk together, and it's pretty remarkable actually as you're going through Israel. And realistically, the red herring, as you said, and Kev, it is just, it's phonier than a $3 bill. I look at it and I see these guys. Tucker made his big deal a couple of years ago about finding Christ, and great, that's great news. But still, he's a baby. Dude, he's a theological baby, meaning he has not grown, and the people that are impacting his life are people that are poisoning or have poisoned his thinking process, such that now he's anchored to this thought of the anti-Semitism and the Jews doing this and the Jews doing. Like, I'm a Christian, man, and my friends who are Jews are unbelievably gifted Idahoans, businessmen and women who are standing there saying, who's going to stand with me? I decided at this stage in my life, I'm taking a stand. I will stand with Israel.
And here we have our great friend Dennis Mansfield. Well, how safe is it, Dennis? I mean, they're trying to kill the Jewish people. You got the Iranians, you got the mullahs, you got the Shahed drones or whatever.
Yeah. What I experienced when I was there in November matched so many of the other times that I've been there, and that is there's always difficulties. There are. I mean, it's the size of New Jersey, for goodness sakes. And there's like 160 plus national, international news organizations waiting for the next thing to happen. And it doesn't matter whether it's rock throwing adolescents in Bethlehem or it's a car explosion, bombing here or there. It would be like going into L.A. and having that many news people from all over the world looking for the next problem that hits. Yes, there's a war going on. I do not diminish that. Yes, there are drones that are taking things out and people out. And there are amazing technology defenses. Iron Dome, you could just go through David Sling. All these technology innovations that have occurred to stop and be in a defensive posture, where El Sayed comes in and he says there's no difference between a defensive war and an offensive war. He's an idiot. I mean, he's an idiot. He has no knowledge of military background.
Dennis, with all due respect, let me interrupt you, but he's speaking to a group of people that's resonating with, and that's why we have you on to get the other side of the story on. As a man of faith, as a man who's a champion of the Judeo-Christian traditions, and you're going to Israel, you're helping the pastors. What goes on in your mind when you see that stuff going on? And this guy could be a senator, sir, and he's doing it peacefully. He's not doing it, beating people up.
No, you're right, Kevin. There's a subtlety like a snake moving on the ground. But the truth is, if you go to Michigan, let's talk about that for a second. I'm a former recovering Michigander. I had the joy of growing up as a kid from 5th grade to 10th grade in a little town called Mount Clemens, Michigan, just outside of Detroit. And one of the goals of every school kid in Michigan is to go up and see Petoskey, move up to the UP to see the Grand Hotel in Mackinac. And just 2 years ago, when Said was seeking his previous elected position, which was governor, which he did not get, he made an incredibly stupid comment. He said, "I hate Mackinac Island. I hate the Grand Hotel." Now, you have to understand, for those film buffs out there that love classic films, Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve was shot there, and it's a beautiful island where no cars can travel, only horses. It's really wild. It's a national treasure, and for this particular guy to stick his finger in the eye socket of Michiganders, of their beautiful, wonderful tourist attraction and deeply held treasure was foolishness. But again, that's my point. The guy says things in order to capture news headlines, because I believe down deep inside, no matter how smart he seems, no matter how smooth he seems, there's what the Bible calls a foolish quality to him. The Bible also says, even though you understand what a fool is saying, realize that it is a fool who's saying it. And so I've come to the conclusion that no matter how smooth, that the voters will be smart enough to make their decision, and they won't go with the guy, just as they did not go in Michigan 2 years ago for governor. So are these guys flashes in the pan? I think many of them are, but is their thinking, their philosophy, and their theology a flash in the pan? No, it's as ancient as the land that I'm going to, and it keeps surfacing generation after generation. So therefore, we have to be equally as persistent in the defense of the things that do make sense, and Israel makes sense. In fact, when you ask, well, what are you doing?
Well, hold on, Dennis. We're going to take a quick break here. And now we've got his broadcasting skills warmed up more with our great friend, and I mean this, our great friend Dennis Mansfield. Next, Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO, getting the truth out. And again, I never thought, Dennis, we would live in a country where people would question our commitment to Israel or question the Israeli government. And never mind what happened in October 7th, and yet here we have people having this animosity towards Israel, and some people being even pro-Iranian. A crazy world we live in.
It is, Kev. It really is. And at the start of the show, you asked the question, "What can we do? What am I doing?" And I really appreciate it, because that really comes down to some key things. First, let's start with what I'm not doing. I'm not wringing my hands. I am not fearful of the future. The thing that I, as a young man that came into politics supporting and helping Ronald Reagan when he lost his nomination in 50 years ago, it began the process for me of realizing that there is a bright day, not just for America, but there's a bright day for the world. And so what we have to do, number one, is ask ourselves, in a republic form of government, who are we supporting? Who are we standing by? And I recently read an op-ed by the Statesman that it didn't so much infuriate me, it just saddened me. It was a completely inappropriate op-ed dig against Senator Jim Risch. I sat there and I was thinking, A, who is this idiot that's writing it? And then B, what's my response? And so I've been talking with my bride, Susan, and we've been thinking about what to do to publicly talk about something honestly and earnestly. And I made the decision that this morning I'm going to endorse Senator Jim Risch for his reelection. I did that with a profound sense of thanks for the fact that those who have just moved into the state, they had no idea who Jim Reich is. I remember some guy talking about how much he disliked this guy, Jim Reich. And I said, well, let's start with a proper pronunciation. And I began to talk with him. I said, do you understand the gem that we have in the gem state? This is a man who, yes, he's 83, and he's got all those years of experience to help us move through the U.S. Senate in ways that are fantastic for us. I mean, 4 bills that absolutely are changing America. The International Nuclear Energy Act that he authored, the Bust Fentanyl Act that he authored, the Bipartisan Mapland Act that he co-authored, the Aquifer Recharge Flexibility Act. These are real pieces of law that are really changing the nation. And then we have people arguing, well, I don't like the fact that he's an old man. Well, you know, I'm getting there too, pal. What are you talking about? Just because our age happens, that we don't have the opportunity to change the world, we still can, and we must. And so I made the decision. This is a guy, majority leader, pro tem, lieutenant governor. He's the only person in the history of Idaho, and I think possibly in the history of the United States, that was a sitting lieutenant governor, was given the plum of becoming governor when Dirk Kempthorne resigned, and then as governor served, I think, 7 or 8 months, and then could have run again for governor as the incumbent, but chose to retain his lieutenant governor's seat so that Butch Otter could enter in, run, and win. And then subsequent to that, of course, he had the opportunity to become a U.S. Senator and has been incredibly successful, both in terms of the D.C. community, the international community, and I would argue just the Idaho community. The guy's roots are here. He's got ranching background, business background. Yes, he's an attorney, but guess what? All of us who've ever been in the legislature realize there's a huge difference. I was in as a lobbyist, those who have been elected, between someone who wants to look like they're doing something and, Kevin, someone who's doing something. And so, therefore, I made the decision that I'm announcing today my endorsement of Senator Jim Risch for re-election.
Well, breaking news here this morning, our great friend Dennis Mansfield. Okay, Dennis, you're going to Israel. You're bringing folks with you. Have you had any, your reflection on this? I know it's not your first trip there, but a lot of us, we don't want to travel across the country because we're afraid. I mean, take a look at the times we're living in. How dangerous is it?
Well, I think we all have to take inventory. AA has a great thing talking about a personal inventory when people change their lives. And I think that for us to be able to move and to enjoy and appreciate, we have to, where we're at, where we're living, where we want to go. We have to ask the question, what's the opposite of fear? And a lot of people will say, well, it's courage. Is it? I don't believe it is. I think the opposite of fear is faith. And I don't mean necessarily theological, but it could be. It could be a faith in God, a faith in Christ. But it's the faith in the belief that things are better than they appear. It's the faith and belief that there's a brighter, better day, not because I want there to be, because I'm some Pollyanna-ish person. Listen, I buried my son. Okay, it's been 17 years, and I grieve over the loss of my Nate not being with me. But I can tell you this, that his life and his death impacted a whole lot of people who have gained sobriety, who have gained the opportunity to live and breathe and continue on and have children and grandchildren, because we've talked about it. When we talk about the things, we no longer have fear. So I ask people, tell me your greatest fear about travel to the Middle East. And then I answer those, not because I'm selling the Middle East, but because I am encouraging people to buy a better future. Look at the way they're existing and quit hunkering down. Get in your car. You got to move it. You got to, life is good. Let's live it to the fullest. And this is said by a guy who had open heart surgery almost 2 years ago. And I thought, man, how do I implement the idea of travel when I can barely even cough? But I learned to cough again. I learned to walk again. I learned to do all the things that are a part of rehabilitation from something as grand and amazing as open heart surgery. So, Kev, I'm here. I'm a clarion call, I hope, for people to say what is good about Idaho, what is right about America, and that the foolish things that are attacking us, if you will, they will fall away, because the nature of the American spirit is to say, yeah, not so much, pal. I'm not going to vote for you. I'm going to vote for that girl or that man. And I believe, I have complete faith that there's no need to fear.
Dennis, if people want to get a hold of you and have a conversation or maybe go on a trip, what can they do?
It'd be wonderful to have anybody who's interested reach out to me. It's a simple email address, me, at DennisMansfield.com, me@DennisMansfield.com. Taking people in March. We're going to go on a cruise, and then we're going to do a land tour, cruise to the Mediterranean and land tour through Israel. I'm looking forward to it. It's also going to be my sweet bride's and my 50th wedding anniversary next year. Can't believe I was married at 6 years of age. 6 years of age, I was married. It was unbelievable.
Well, somebody made a great call.
I tell you what, I won the lottery, pal. I can't believe.
You did. You did.
So I'm very, very thankful.
I keep telling you, we need to do this more often there, buddy.
I love being able to talk with you, Kevin. You're a bright and morning star for us in Idaho. I remember it. I literally remember the first time you went on the air, and I remember thinking, man, this is good. This is what we need. And that was, I think, the wisest decision KIDO ever made. It's pretty awesome. And you've changed the lives of Idahoans. I know that. You're doing the thing you're doing on the air that I hope I can be doing by taking people to Israel and changing their perspectives.
Dennis Mansfield, one more time your email. Thank you for the kind words. God bless. One more time for the email, sir.
Sure, it's me, M-E, at DennisMansfield.com, me at DennisMansfield.com. Appreciate that. And the website for the Israel thing is CUFI, C-U-F-I, Christians United for Israel.org, CUFI.org.
God bless you, Dennis, and congratulations to you and Susan. Take care, sir.
Thank you so much, Kevin. We'll do it again, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
5-8. Bye-bye. I love Dennis Mansfield. Great insight into what's going on in Israel and Al Sayed, what he's doing, and the counter to that. Go to Poland, Mr. Sayed. See what happened there. Let's get you to work safely and on time. 580.
Ben, good morning. Hey, I got to give a comment on Al, which, knowing about war is important, I think, but ultimately, what good is it to know about it? If you want to know about war, go go join one of the academies and fight the war. The real thing that I wish our kids would be educated on is independence from banking. The situation that war leads to is hyperinflation. This has been historically true for hundreds of years. China, Spain, Britain, France, Japan, Germany, you name it. They all have a scenario that is related to war. That is, in many cases, their passion for power, where they spend and spend and spend and end up getting themselves spread out all over the world to the point where they can't cover all the bases anymore. And once hyperinflation ensues and you're in debt to the bank on a W-2, you're done. Independence, understanding the banking system, understanding that the second you make the relationship with that bank, you have just become a slave, and the eventual path of all of it, and I think that the United States is playing this out right now, is you hit hyperinflation, our currency becomes insolvent, and then what do you have? Utterly nothing. If we were going to study anything, we would study how to become a self-independent business person and how to navigate and be free from the banks or make yourself free from the banks, and what the true impact is. They make it so easy to become a part of the banks. If you're on the W-2, they're like, oh, just send us your W-2. Now we know exactly how much income you have because it's easy. And they can easily give you a loan. Well, they can you don't own anything. The banks own it all. But what good is that W-2 when we become insolvent, when we have a depression, when we have an economical downturn? In America today, that's every 10 years. That's just been historically true just about every decade for many decades now. So how are we informing our children, informing people to start navigating that right away? If you help your kids understand this at a young age, and they don't immediately go buy that car, or they don't immediately go do those things, it's going to set them up a long ways. And getting them set up in their own business and understanding the freedoms that come from that, but also that small business is challenging. The banks don't like it. It makes it harder for you to become a part of it. You have to submit all your taxes and all this stuff so they can claim to verify your income. It's not easy, but when hyperinflation takes place, which if y'all haven't been paying attention, we're experiencing that. I wouldn't say hyperinflation right now. We're on the path. It's happened to many countries, and the countries in Europe since World War I, World War II, as of late, their greatest skill in life is barter and trade. They're like, oh, we're about to lose our currency again, because it happens very often. Those people know and understand that the true value is in the hard, good things that you can have in your hand, which leads to that whole gold and silver thing, which, that's not a retirement plan. But what good is studying war when all we need to understand of war is that it leads to this passion for power, and that passion for power leads to getting spread too thin, and we end up like the many, 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 many countries across the world that lost that power over greed.
Boy, that was quite a long build-up there. I didn't know where you were going, literally.
Yeah, well, it's about independence, Kevin. It's independence. It's about knowing it's okay to use banks. You use the bank. You don't let the bank use you. It's too common and easy to use the bank. It's just a part of life. Well, we've talked about that.
Yeah, but
Kevin.
you have, again, you have employers saying you will now get direct deposit. You have other people. It's not like you have a choice there, buddy.
Well, you do have a choice. Unless I take one step back. If you are a lover of very specific things, like if you love radio, you either got to start your own station or you got to work for the man. And that suffrage that those professionals work is just the nature of the beast. But that doesn't mean.
In other words, it's the trade-off. Everything is a trade-off.
Yeah, 100%. But at least being aware.
You could be like my buddy, who one of the most charismatic guys I've ever met. He's retired and he's going to turn 60 this year. And he has a pension and he's going to be great. He loved teaching like I love radio. I went into teaching. Teaching wasn't for me. So I chose this path of the grizzled, chewed up person at 58. Again, you could look at things with regret. There were a lot of trade-offs that I made, a lot of trade-offs that he made. And that's just how you have to look at things. Life is about choices. We make choices. And, a lot of us made a lot of bad choices.
In the good news, Kevin, there are industries that succeed in a downturn. When everything's in a downturn, radio is awesome because people still need to turn on to listen and to hear what's happening. There are certain industries.
This is like the gloom and doom. This is like the gloom and doom, Dylan, today, man.
No way, man. It's all about taking.
What's next? The Chinese are coming over, or Skynet is taking over? Which is it?
Hey, well, when you talk about Skynet and you talk about data centers, plus the idea of the flock camera and cryptocurrency, well, the movies shall play out, my friend. We're experiencing a slow death in that one's case. So I don't know. That's about independence, Kevin. Thankfully, we are in a state that I think could do a good bit better about supporting the small business, but it's not exactly trying to crush the small business and find at least in a side hustle, Kevin. In a side hustle, find something that you love and do it in a side hustle. You never know. It might turn into the rest of your life's business and make you independent.
Yeah, I keep looking for that side hustle, whether it's photography, videography, real estate. Everybody's been with me for these failed side hustles. Dylan, the Great Idaho Show, we appreciate you. Thank you very much, sir.
Take care, buddy.
We go to Brian in Nampa. Brian, good morning. You're on 580 KIDO.
Hey, Kevin, I just want to share something I learned this week from my son, my oldest son, the one you don't know that well. He told me that when they came up with the word faith, the original word had so many meanings that they settled on that. And he's like, Dad, let me tell you what one of the other meanings of what the original word was. He said loyalty. So let's just apply that to faith, like the famous scripture, faith without works is dead. Well, you could say loyalty without works is dead. And Kevin, I'm one of these guys that believes that after everything I can do, the Lord makes up the difference. But doesn't that change the word faith a little bit? You have to be loyal to him. Do you think it changes it?
I'm all about loyalty, yes.
Yeah. Loyalty to everything. So it's not just religious. This administration claims to be the most loyal pro-Second Amendment administration we voted for, and I believe that, Kevin, and I voted for it, and it did that. It took a tax off of suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and shotguns, and said you still have to register for the NFA. Well, there was a court case last week that a judge said basically if there's no tax, this should not be on the NFA. And all the Department of Justice, which is controlled by our loving President Donald J. Trump, who I love, has to do is leave it alone past Wednesday. Let the law stand where the judge ruled. Basically, the NFA was putting a tax on firearms. They couldn't tax the Second Amendment, but Congress can tax certain firearms. So I guess we'll find out if we have the most pro-Second Amendment administration tomorrow at midnight. Because all they have to do, and there's a big fight, from what I understand, going on in the administration, back and forth on whether the Department of Justice should challenge that judge's ruling. So loyalty to the American people and loyalty to the Second Amendment. Wonder what's going to happen, Kevin. Any questions?
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up, Brian. God bless. Appreciate you. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Your childhood vaccinations out to Ron Grant.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Who joins us now at 580 KIDO. Ron, great to have you with us. We take a look at the day. I hope you have better news for our finances than the weather, sir.
Good morning, young man. Well, yes, my clients and I are still sleeping every night comfortably because we know that we can't lose our principal and we can't lose any of our gains. Kevin, a pile of money in a 401k and IRA is not a retirement plan. You need to turn that pile of money into an income stream, a systematic pension, if you would. And that's what I've done for my money, and that's what I do for my clients' money. Market goes up, market goes down, market goes sideways. We get to participate in some of the upside of Wall Street, but never the downside of Wall Street. Back in 08 and 09 when the market tanked almost 50%, my clients and I, we got zeros. But a zero is always better than a loss. And we want to make sure that we have that lifetime income, Kevin, to take care of ourselves and our family. And if we're married, when one spouse passes away, the other spouse gets that lifetime income for the rest of their life. And then when they pass away, whatever's left goes to the beneficiary. And that's how I've helped myself and how I help my clients.
Well, Ron, that could be confusing when we're talking about financial security. How do you break that down? And, are all retirement plans created equal?
No, all plans are not created equal. The 4% rule that the financial planners like to say you should be able to live on. Number one, it's highly exposed to market volatility. Number two, income is at risk during the downturns of the market, and you must sell assets to generate income. And what if you have to sell on a short sell? Now you've lost more money. And also you're paying the fees, the financial planners, the stockbrokers, asset under management fees, fiduciary fees. My clients and I want that lifetime income, Kevin, that we can't outlive, and we don't want to pay for it. And that's important.
Well, Ron, how can people get a hold of you and ask some questions and get some information?
Well, they put together a great educational website that they can go on 24/7, articles to read, videos to take a look at safermoneyspecialist.com. But, let's have a phone conversation right here in the Treasure Valley about how you can have a guaranteed income that you can't outlive, zero stock market risk, and most importantly, Kevin, legacy protection for you and your family. 208-660-1372.
Ron Grant, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Have a good day.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
And there we have it, our great friend Ron Grant. Kevin Mill in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers here, 580-5436. 580 KIDO, getting you started for the big day. Bad news, everybody's a loser, but you could be a winner. With the details, here's our own Ted Linder on 580 KIDO.
Numbers for Monday night's drawing were 6, 37, 54, 55, 64, and the Powerball was 10. A winning $2 million match 5 power play ticket was sold in Tennessee, and 2 $1 million tickets that match 5 numbers but not the Powerball were sold in California and Maryland, including a ticket sold at a 7-Eleven on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood. The jackpot for Wednesday night now grows to at least $975 million, where a winner could choose a lump sum cash option of about $422.4 million. Ted Lindner, Fox News.
Thank you, Ted. Let's get you to work safely and on time at 580 KIDO. Dave Burnett to get you to work the right way. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studios, traffic now on the freeway looking better. That accident near 10 Mile going eastbound, that is now cleared. Still slow and go through there. 10 Mile and Cherry Lane still working that accident. Benson Lumber is your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Benson Lumber, now in Cuna, and online at bensonlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Thank you very much, Dave Burnett. So there you have it. You can't win if you don't play. So I'm sure people at the Idaho Lottery and others will be fired up to get going. And as I said, we all have that fantasy. Except Dave Petzo. I don't think Dave Petzo plays the lottery, but we are going to talk about the Albertsons Open. Remember, keep it here, your chance to win tickets to see some of the great shows coming up. It is a wonderful, wonderful event, and big ups to our friends at Albertsons for making that happen. Thank you. You want to thank our sponsor this hour, Peak Health Idaho. Call them now, 683-7325. 683-7325. Kevin Miller, good morning. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Beacon Plumbing. We're joined now by our great friend Dave Petzo, host of Money Matters. Dave, great to have you with us.
Hey, great to be with you, Kevin. Thanks for having me today.
Is this your favorite time of year, considering what's going to happen this weekend?
Yes, it's a mixed bag. I love the Boise Open, don't get me wrong, but it is a big interruption to playing golf, if you will, at my favorite golf course. So it is it's a mixed bag, but we have enjoyed it so much for so many years, and having people over to, before they go to the concerts and things like that is just, it's a real social time for us. We even have family coming in for it. So the answer is yes. And what an amazing showcase that is for Boise. Stunning. Over $3 million to charity year after year after year, closing in on $40 million over the years. Wild. It's just wild what the impact is for the whole Boise area. It's wonderful.
Well, what goes on? I mean, you're seeing them tear up the course and all these people coming in. You've got the media there already. Take us on the ground level of what's going on.
Well, it takes a good couple weeks to get set up. So there's trucks, there's 100 people running around, moving the grandstands. It's quite an undertaking, really. It's not easy to put these things together. The stage that people see at the concerts, it's massive, and so you've got semis coming in constantly. From morning till night, and it is in building these things, and then they got to tear it all back down, and off they go, and then you've got to recover the golf course. So it is a big undertaking to get going. If you can imagine, stands to hold thousands of people, and a stage that's big enough to have 10,000 people out there watching. It's a big undertaking, and all the food, all the product that has to be brought in for it. It's a logistical accomplishment, if you will, to get this thing done. But it does take a lot of time, and there's a lot of noise.
Well, but it goes for a great cause. What does it really say about Albertsons, the Albertsons Foundation, that they make this happen year in and year out?
It's something else. It really is. It's you stop and you think about that. Every dollar that goes to purchase your for a lot of people, they don't care about the golf. They're there for the concert. I don't know if I call it a golf ticket, a golf pass, or you call it a concert ticket. It's probably some of both, right? But it is it's amazing that every dollar goes to the local charities. That is done because you have so many sponsors for this. By having all these sponsors, they're able to come up with enough money to put all this on, to pay all the players, and walk away. I'm sure Jeff Sanders' production walks away with a very healthy profit at the end of the day. So I'm sure that, and that's not bad. I don't mean that in a bad way. It just is bound to be so. And that's how much sponsor money comes from Albertsons, Hershey's, all of them. It's quite a large ensemble of sponsors here.
Our great friend Dave Petzo joining us here. Kevin Mill in the morning. KIDO Talk Radio. Chevron presenting 4 days of the PGA Tour. at Hillcrest Country Club. Let's see, the Corn Ferry Tour, Red Bull, a lot of big sponsors. We've got all sorts of things going on. So from a business perspective, why do you think Albertsons does so much to make this happen? Other places, you have businesses that partner, but these guys are unique. And again, it comes with a cost.
It does. There's no question. And you just don't know how long it'll keep happening. I'm stunned that it's, over 30 years because they just keep doing it. But the costs keep going up. We all know that for everything. And you have to wonder, too, if Albertsons, which is struggling to stay a vibrant part of the grocery market, is going to be wanting to do that in the future. We'll have to wait and see, Kevin. I don't know. Or is Hillcrest going to do it? I don't know. It's up to the membership. It's not up to me, and it's not up to Albertsons or anybody else. So it's always an ongoing thing. But we're going to have this for 3 more years, and I think that's where the contract is. And so at least 3 more years, we get to enjoy this, and I couldn't be happier for everybody in Boise, really, because it is such an event. It really is, to think that you get this many people out and this good of golfers. This is the way to the big tour, to the tens of millions of dollars in purses. This is how you get there, is through the Corn Ferry Tour.
Our great friend Dave Petzo joining us here, and again, I guess we could go on and on and on, but so much money, $3 million last year, goes to charities. And now, again, having been to your place a few times, it's not the easiest place to get in and out of. That must be a pain.
It can be difficult, yes. There's no question about it, because you're talking about basically a neighborhood, and there's just very little roads coming in or out, and so it is a tough spot. But they're all blocked off, and so the locals, us, we can get in and out without too much trouble. It's just a little bit of a stop, wave the pass, on you go. So it's not that big a deal, because they do block the roads to make sure that people are not parking in front of people's houses.
Okay, our great friend Dave Petzo joining us here at 580 KIDO. So, Dave, what do you make of communism? See, this is what this is like going back to the throwback of Kevin Miller and Dave Petzo. I would just say as little as possible that Dave would go, what do you make of these people loving communism and socialism? I mean, you grew up in America, and you still are a capitalist. So, what's up with that, bro?
I know. It is puzzling. It is. I'm not sure I can ever wrap my mind around it, because obviously for years and years and years it comes and goes. Different parts of the world, but different flavors here, but this. And it doesn't make sense to me ever, other than you have evil people in the world, and and therefore they just want to dictate and rule. They don't want to have people having any personal freedom. That's just, I guess, human nature to some degree. But I don't understand as a society people at all, where I don't, wow, it's only 20% of the people that want to see communism. It's like, why would it be 2%? What is wrong with people? And what's wrong with it, I think, is sheer ignorance. Peggy Noonan, I had a wonderful piece, I believe it's Saturday's Journal, and talking about that fact, about the fact that they're young and they think that things aren't going to work out with AI, so they're grasping at that. They haven't had any historic education at all, or minimal. She probably phrased it more like that. And that part has to be true, because obviously you can't sit around and go, yeah, this is a beautiful program. This works good. Like where, when, ever? Of course it doesn't. And it doesn't actually make logical sense that it would work. Dictating people's personal choices from on high sounds very limiting to me. I don't, we all have to have rules as a society, but I don't want to be told what I should do for a living and have only 2 or 3 choices if I did have any choice at all. And why would I want to have a grocery store that I can have 1 bag of rice and walk out of? What is that? Why wouldn't I want to have freedom to choose, freedom to grow, freedom to work hard, learn, travel? I don't understand it, Kevin, and it's a higher educated dips with useless educations that are running this, and I like, why? Why would anybody follow them? How is a Mondami the mayor? I mean, don't we want people with actual world experience that have done something? Apparently not. So I'm confused. I don't have an easy answer. Maybe it's that we are, we go through these things perhaps when we're a little fat, dumb, and happy, and we just don't have to worry about things. And I guess that's perhaps a society needs to have, people have to have hard work ahead of them to appreciate what it is they have. I can't imagine, Kevin, honestly, it just doesn't make sense to me why everybody in the world wants to come here and then many of them just want to tear it down. It doesn't make sense. They're incredibly privileged and don't have to do anything in life and don't except try to tear down. And to what end? It would tear their lives down too. So it makes no sense. It's illogical, and I wish we had some pill we could all take and be smart, but there isn't. And people are entitled to their opinions, but I don't think this is based on reality or how it's going to turn out, on intelligence, on thought. It is raw emotion and stupid.
Our great friend Dave Petzo joining us, Money Matters, Saturdays 8 to 10 at 580 KIDO. Dave, we take a look at the war, and we have Democrats saying this was a war of choice. We have, the Iranians, and look, you and I are from the same part of the country. And what a lot of nice people don't understand in Idaho is sometimes you may be done with somebody, but they're not done with you. And it appears the Iranians are, not backing down. Now, they could be living in caves. They could be starving themselves, killing their people. But they really see this war that we've inflicted so much damage on them as an advantage. Economically, how do you see this playing out? And again, we've got the media, we've got the Democrats seemingly cheering for the Iranians.
They are, because Democrats don't have a message. So all they do is have an anti-message. Their message is, we hate Trump. We're not Trump. That's their message. And they don't have another one. They don't have an explanation why, after 46 years of shouting death to Iran, or death to America by the Iranians, and that this probably is not a good thing. They're killing thousands of Americans over the years. Tens or hundreds of thousands of their own people, not just recently, for all of time. That this is something that we should have people have a nuclear weapon. The answer is always a deflection and a non-answer. It's just like, Trump went into this, or the JPC agreement was just fine, and it's no, well, it wasn't, right? They were developing a nuclear weapon. So it's not fine, and they don't talk. They just simply continue to only understand brutal defeat. And so I'm not sure what Trump's doing. I try to just kind of say I don't have all the facts in front of me, and he does, and not question the direction, but it doesn't feel like we're finishing the deal, and it just keeps feeling like Lucy in the football. They want a deal really bad, really, 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 really bad, and then we don't have a deal. Then they, lob another missile over at a base. I don't know where it ends, Kevin, but obviously we have defeated them. The question is, how do we get them to stop, like literally be done? Because they certainly don't have the capacity to wage a war, but we don't have the patience to sit around and wait either. And so I think as a society, midterms, blah, 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 our election cycle, I just don't know at the end of the day that really the world needs all of the oil in order to somehow run okay. I don't think they do, but I don't know that we have the patience to blame and about getting into a long drug out blockade or something like that. So, Kevin, I don't know what Trump's up to. It doesn't feel like he has a steady plan, but I don't have all the facts. So I just have to sit back and wait and wonder, because I don't know that we have to do anything, but I think politically probably it needs to get resolved sooner than, looking at a multi-year blockade to finally get rid of these folks.
What about, and you brought this up, the economic impact, stocks are up, stocks are down, and then we have the oil problem. And, we have the strategic reserve that is, at its lowest since 1983. Obviously, people are fairly concerned about this, as they should be.
Yeah, I think we're fine. Oil, it's you can kind of see that in the price, right? There is no peace over there, but oil prices are down from where they were by a lot. Actually, they're a lot lower than they were, and even in the recent action here, it's not spiked a lot. So we're seeing, I think, a world that says, yeah, there's enough oil, and of course, I think that the strategic reserve is not about keeping gas prices low. I think it's about strategically if we need it. And so I'd like to see it refilled. And I understand that there's logistical problems with that. It's not because we don't have oil. But at the same time, I would like to see that done. But the market's telling us globally, day after day, that there's no shortage. There's oil out there, and there's natural gas. And this coming winter, the people in Europe are not going to be as, if you will, at the beck and call of Russia, because LNG has been vastly improved under Trump. It's not, you and I've talked about this a few times, right? That some of these subtle things that are happening within the administration that don't get headline at all are major important differences structurally to the United States that are just incredible. Like just getting government out of the way of energy. We are energy independent. Getting government out of the way. Biden was trying to block LNG, liquid natural gas, exports and terminals in Louisiana. Trump said no, and we have them, and now we have an entire industry that's flourishing, and we're saving Europe from being Putin's pet. And so it's an amazing change just in one industry, let alone all the way around in what's happening in multiple industries. So I really applaud them on their governance across the administration has been incredible, and it's led to, I believe, a long-term energy safety that on our shores that no country has that, and it was in very, very short order.
More coming up with our great friend, Dave Petzo. Remember, this portion of the program is sponsored by our friends at Beacon Plumbing, beaconplumbing.com. Call them now, 516-2061. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO, at 580-KIDO. Dave, what are you looking out for right now?
Kevin, it's okay, this is kind of a multifaceted take, okay? So, I don't like just to talk about headlines, and I don't want to tell you about how great earnings are every week. We've already done that. But I look through it.
Ooh, Dave Petzo running up the score here. Wow. Okay, Dave. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. So the earnings numbers are unreal, and they are record levels. Okay. I just, I know we talk about they're splendid, they're wonderful, they're great, but I don't think we give them enough credit for how much different it is right now. And when I hear people parsing through little data points, and we can do this in anything, right? We do this when we're talking about the strategic petroleum reserve. We talk about it with energy. We talk about it with every single thing where people can look for a tidbit that says stocks are going to crash, or this is a problem, or that's a problem. And so I try to look at things at a 10,000-foot level instead of trying to parse through these. We talked about the credit crunch. We talk about all those things. They're real if you take little pieces of it. But the whole picture, the big mosaic here, not the little pieces, is that corporate America is doing very, very well. And I constantly hear people looking at it and saying AI is too much money spent, they'll never monetize it. All of these things that you're looking at, the little picture. And I think we have to pull away from that and say the reason that stocks are doing better than all of the headline news and how people feel is because things are actually better. And I don't want to go into that Joe Biden, we're going to pretend that everything's okay and look at the couple of the numbers here and miss that people are working hard, maybe have to have 2 jobs, et cetera, et cetera. But when we really dig in and try to figure out what's maybe right and not what's just always wrong, there's a lot of data points that say this is not an expensive market. It's cheap because we are in an unprecedented tear of corporate profits. And yes, you can come through and parse it and go, yeah, but it's 2 or 3 companies. It's the Microns of the world that are jacking up the prices. No, it is, yes, but it's broader than that. When you take it on an average, we're at record levels. In other words, you take out the extremes of growth. This is an incredibly interesting time from that perspective to me. And I don't know that I agree with Elon Musk that we're going to have, 10x GDP growth over the next 10 years. I don't. But I also don't know. But what I am seeing out there is it is unprecedented. And I just think we get on and ride, and we don't look for reasons why the end is here. If we can keep control of the socialists and not have
Dave, the socialists are coming for you and for me and for everybody, Dave. Look at Wisconsin, look at other places. They're coming, and from what I hear, they're coming for you.
They are. They're coming for all of us because at the end of the day, they will destroy America. They totally will destroy it. It's what they want. They don't have a plan of how to improve America. They have a plan to destroy America. They don't like it. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why our colleges are this way, except that, 50 years ago, 60 years ago now, or 70, whatever it was, they began to try to take over the colleges, and they've won. So hopefully AI will reverse that as we hopefully can destroy some of the absurdity of what's going on in the colleges, bringing costs back down and actually teaching people things that matter and that they can use the rest of their life instead of just spending time trying to figure out how to destroy the country that made them rich. It's an interesting, weird time that way. But Kevin, on the economic side, we miss it. We miss the big picture of how good this is when we are sitting around trying to figure out all the time some little data point of why it's going to implode.
Well, I mean, part of that, though, is, and again, here we have the headlines from Drudge. Bubble trouble, worst period for hedge funds since 2008 after AI stock rout. Now, again, you're a long-term player. You've always been that way. You don't like the computers. I'm not speaking for you. I'm sure you'll correct me, but I mean, we have the ups and the downs here. NVIDIA partners with Wall Street giant to raise another $500 billion. Private equity stuck with some unsold businesses. So when you read that, what does Dave Petzo think of those headlines? And I know you're very hypercritical or hyper objective on this. Your thoughts when you see those headlines?
Yeah, I'm not circling back to what I just said, but I think that sometimes we see these headlines and they are true. They are absolutely true. Some hedge funds, one in particular, had a big problem run by a 24-year-old. That's your problem. You have 24-year-olds running around with billions of dollars and 4 times leverage. Goldman Sachs, I'm glad you lost $1 billion, you idiots. Who would do that, right? Without controls. But that at the end of the day, what we're seeing in AI world is also a Micron down from 1,200 down to, let's call it 800 before it's bounced here to 9 recently, up from $90 a share. Yeah. I mean, that's not a bubble, Kevin. That's not a bubble popping. That's not hedge funds losing their all of their money. It's one that blew up, and that's all because of stupidity. And that happens all the time in markets, and it happens to individuals who are out there leveraging, buying these double levered things, 0-day options. These are silly gambling things, Kevin, and I hate seeing it, and I hate seeing Wall Street getting involved in it and offering it to people. But I guess I understand. If you want to throw your money away, go ahead. It's up to individuals. That's part of freedom. But when I see those kind of headlines, I don't disagree with them, and that there are issues out there in credit funds and things. You got to keep our eye on the credit markets because those are the key. They're much bigger than the stock market, but nothing big has happened as we've seen some things happen within the credit markets, but they were bad loans, and they're going to go bad when people are stretching for yield, and that's no matter what the cycle is. It doesn't mean it's a disaster.
Dave Petzo joining us. Now, when you go to these Zurich or Sun Valley or any of these places, you meet with a lot of smart people. And I'm not saying that you're not a smart man, but one of the things that when you go into these places, you're around a lot of smart people. And again, some people, they have dumb luck, which is very rare. They fall into a lot of money. But what do you make of this guy, this Matt Ishibai? And I'm sure you've seen this in the Journal. America's mortgage king lost $600 million and needed a rescue. Now, he owns the Phoenix Suns. He paid $4 billion for it. He's put a ton of money into Michigan State, built a big mansion, and like you, Dave Petzo, with their own trampoline park and rock climbing wall. But how can a guy that is smart and blah, 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 and has been so successful make mistakes? Is that just the game that you all play, sir?
Yeah, it is. It's you can, and everybody does. But honestly, it's risk management, and I don't know, of course, the details of why or how. But if you're making too big a bet for a portfolio or adding too much leverage, reaching too far, you can blow up, and even in a good time, because we're not talking about it's a bad time. I don't know how you go and wipe out a mortgage company at this time. I understand 2008. I'm sure you and I can talk all day about that. But that was nobody survived that had anything to do with real estate and any leverage. So it wiped everybody out. But this is a big mistake, and it's just simply risk management. This is what companies, banks try to do when they're having you fill out 10,000 pieces of paper and track it down just to get a mortgage. It's a difficult thing, and they are simply trying to make sure that you are capable of making the payments. And this is just terrible risk management to think a mortgage company. I have no idea how they would let something like that happen. It's bizarre and stupid.
Well, and he's the world's largest mortgage company, surpassing even rival Rocket Mortgage. But apparently, let's see, the businessman surprised investors last week when he revealed that an ill-timed wager had left his company, United Wholesale Mortgage, with a $6 million hole. Apparently, he made a bad bet or something like that. I guess you'll read about it in the Journal. For those of us mere mortals, Dave Petzo, what are you getting us out on here? What should we be looking out for?
Kevin, it's such an interesting time, but I think that the headlines are geopolitical. The headlines are always negative. They not always, only like 93% of the time. It's not always. But I think what we have to do, again, I'll go back to it, is try to look through it, take a 10,000-foot level look at things. And here's one more tidbit I'll give you that I thought was very, very interesting. And that is that wage growth at the lowest levels, meaning the bottom 25%, is accelerating. It's up to 5.5% the trailing 12 months, 5.5. And if you're in the top quartile, the ones that always have and keep growing faster, it's 1.5. So the poor are getting richer at a faster pace now. And that, I think, is critical to this whole socialist nonsense that's going on in this country. And I hope that message keeps getting out. It's working to see these tradesmen, going out and formerly were lower paid. But now with immigration, we're not having an oversupply of people that are willing to work for next to nothing. And so you are having to pay up for everything, and that's showing up in wages. And God bless them. That is good stuff. That's really good stuff to see that happening, to hopefully get this socialist. It's not socialism, for crying out loud. It's communism we're talking about here. And that is a horrifying scare, and I hope that this keeps getting out.
Dave Petzo, we appreciate you as always. Thank you very much, and keep your powder dry, sir.
Yes, God bless, Kevin. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Our great friend Dave Petzo. Catch him at Money Matters, Saturdays 8 to 10, right here on 580 KIDO. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Beacon Plumbing. Call them now, 516-2061. That's 516-2061. We'll tell you about them in a minute. 580 KIDO. Traffic a while ago. It's been a while since we played this, and I think it's more important when that we get the truth out, and we'll as we continue to populate this segment of the program, each of our 4 individual hours. I believe last time we played this in the 9 o'clock. We're playing this in the 8. This is former Navy SEAL, current U.S. Senator from Montana, Tim Sheehy, delivering an emotional speech on Iran. The president is the first president hit back. This is the counter-argument to what we're hearing from everyone where, I just wish the war could be over. Nothing is over until we say it is.
For us who served, and that is a dignified return of remains from the war zone. And that process happens beginning in the war zone through Dover to the hometown of our fallen heroes. I participated in many of those ceremonies myself, to include carrying friends of mine off the plane. One of those is on this bracelet. He was cut in half by an Iranian EFP. This regime that we are fighting does not care about our partisan politics. They don't care who you voted for, who you pray to, or where you live. They want to kill all of us. And they don't just say it, they actually do it. And they've been doing it for 47 years. This is a war of choice. The Democrats are correct. It's a war of choice that was begun by a radical, lunatic band of terrorists that took over a beautiful nation 47 years ago. Took it over with brutality, force, and savagery. And the second they took it over, they didn't free their people. They didn't unleash the largest oil reserves in the world to build schools and bridges. They took it over to murder their own people and to spread their disgusting ideology across the world, and that is exactly what they have been doing. They don't just say it and talk about it. You don't have to believe what they say. You can simply watch what they've done. They have attacked families, women, children, innocent people. They don't just attack them and kill them. They rape them. They skin them alive on camera. They celebrate it. They honor those people who do disgusting things that we would put in jail for the rest of their lives in this country. And they do it for fun, and they pay them money to do it, and they're heroes to that nation. They've done it to friends of mine. They've done it to families who've been in this chamber. And the fact that we sit here and listen to elected officials of this country defend these lunatics who want us all dead. They want all of you dead. They want all of us dead. They don't want us to disappear with a snap of a finger. They want us to be raped, burned alive, and cut into pieces. Watch the video from October 7th. That's what they want to happen from Maine to San Diego, from Seattle to Miami. They want this country turned into a burning husk of its former self. And you don't have to theorize that. That's what they do. From the 1983 barracks bombing, where 280 Marines were vaporized in a morning, from USS Cole to the Achille Laurel to every terrorist attack, from the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. These are not humanitarian freedom organizations. They are death-dealing cults, and they want all of us to die brutal deaths. William Buckley was abducted in 1985, an American military officer. He was skinned alive on camera by the Iranians. American prisoners of war who were captured, They were never called prisoners of war because they were captured by lunatic terrorists, so they were not subject to the Geneva Convention. They were captured and murdered. Power drills through their brains. This is in Iraq. These are families that have dealt with this, and they've never gotten a single dime. These families have never gotten restitution, and not a single president has ever stood up to them. Love Donald Trump or hate him. Love his policies, hate ICE, love ICE, whatever. There's never been a single president who has stood up to Iran and hit back. For 47 years, our troops and our families have been absorbing attack after attack after attack all over the world. And their radical ideology does not stop at the Persian Gulf. It doesn't stop at Tel Aviv. They want to do this everywhere. It's a global radical ideology. And we've been fighting it for half a century. We didn't start this war. We did not, but we will finish it. And forever wars are not popular with anybody these days. Both sides of that, I love to attack our forever wars. And I can promise you, being someone overseas wearing the uniform, when you're fighting for your country, you don't care what party's in office, but you're fighting to defend your country. And you turn on the news and see your elected officials stabbing you in the back, telling you that you're failing, that you've failed every goal of the war. Is what I just heard. Last time I checked, we've wiped these bastards out. An occasional missile strike and boats in the Straits, that's not military strength. Those are the flailings of a failing empire. Those are the flailings of a nation in collapse because they deserve it. So I encourage our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, whatever's politically convenient, whatever plays well on Twitter or Facebook, think about the people who are deployed right now, standing on that wall with a loaded weapon, who have volunteered to defend our country and our way of life. Because they are there defending us in a just war. Because we did not start a war with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They started it with us 47 years ago, and their attacks have gone unanswered for half a century. It's time to fix this problem and make sure another generation of Americans does not have to fight this murderous, savage adversary. Thank you, Mr. President.
There we have it, Senator Sheehy, former Navy SEAL. You heard him on Clay and Buck. You heard him with Sean when he was running senator in Montana, breaking down what we're fighting against. Wouldn't it be fair that we would get the other side of the story? And again, by the way, you're listening to Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Dear friend or foe, what the senator talked about happens, is happening. They do it to their own people. And if you watch the fake news network, to quote the president, you have the networks talking about the Iranians, the mullahs. Well, yeah, they're crazy. Yeah, they kill their own people. Yeah, they do this. Where is the humanity? Where is the 60s peace, love, and understanding that spawned all these woke liberal do-gooders? Yesterday, we had somebody on defending people of a certain faith, having their kids dressed from head to toe that all you could see were their eyes like the ninjas, and talking about that's freedom, that's expression, and attacking a conservative congresswoman for just noticing the absurdity of what's going on here. Yes, there's one thing about assimilation. People should assimilate to the culture they're living in, not the other way around. And we see it now. You see the unique outfits in parts of Meridian, on Fairview, certainly in Boise, the bench area. And if people want to get along, that's great. But when people want to talk about death and destruction, and here we have Al Sayed, not Saeed, but I like Saeed better, Al Sayed in Michigan, worried that when we took out the Ayatollah or Soleimani or whomever, that we would be offending the followers that live in this country. You heard what the senator said. That's not pro wrestling. That's not talk radio. That is real life, real world experience. And we have people from Gowan Field, from Mountain Home Air Force Base, from all over Idaho, that are doing things that most of us couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't want to do. There's less than 1% of us that could get into the military, that have the ability to serve at the introductory level. Never mind all those other things that go on. And instead of talking about their service, their sacrifice, the evil that they're up against. We have Blumenthal and others, a senator from one of those liberal states. Well, we just need to get out of the war. They're not done with us. We have to be done with them. And say what you want to parrot what the senator said. Nobody else did anything about it. And if these guys, and I believe the president, were going to go nuke, they were going to blow us up. And what's it going to take? We already have some people saying that we deserve September 11th. 25 years ago, next month. Have you forgotten? I haven't. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Apparently, the boomer generation was so big that there's two generations of boomers. From 46 to 54, that's boomers 1. Boomers 2, Generation Jones, from 55 to 64. Pretty wild stuff here. And I believe Gen X is 64 to 80 or 81, depending on that. Then the millennials and everybody else. Let's go to Chandler, who joins us now with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. Hello, Chandler.
Yeah, hey, man, good morning. I got two things for you. One, first off, I'm really disappointed because you totally teed up. You had a great chant. Dave Petzo talked about how bad socialism is, how bad communism is, how they don't work. And it would have been awesome if you would have said, well, does that mean, Dave, you're not going to collect Social Security? You're not going to go on Medicare? You're not going to go on Medicaid? That you are so against the redistribution of wealth, that you're so against socialism, you're not going to take the government medic, you're going to not take Social Security, and you're going to go into the free market that you believe in. You're going to find a free market option rather than take that money, rather than burden the people that are working to, keep you going. Like, where is this? Like, how many of Dave Petzo's clients is Dave Petzo saying, I so believe in the principles of America that don't take Social Security. You can't do that. We're taxing the working young people. We're taking 15% of what they make. And, I'd love to have 15% more. I'm an hourly wage person. Boy, that would really help me a lot to get 10% more of, less than $30 an hour, which is what I make in the real world. I don't live at the plantation golf course and all that other malarkey. So, he's the same old clueless boomer. And I got a very important phrase, Dave, that you should learn and that John Ossoff's probably going to use. I feel your pain. Okay. Oof. I'm 15% of my income is going to boomer loser cons like Dave Petzo, and I can't even get a thank you. I can't, if I stop work and I lose my job, which, let's look around what's happening in the economy, Dave Petzo, when you were growing up. I'm sorry, did you have to compete for a job at Bogus Basin against a J1 visa person where if Bogus Basin hires them, they don't pay payroll tax and they don't pay Social Security. So all of a sudden that employee is going to cost them 15, 20, 30% less? Wow, what a great advantage. What are you going to do? How about the H-1B visa people? How about the OPT visas? How about the H-2 visa people out there? The trades job thing is crap. Look, I'm in that industry. I know it. Like it's better than it has been. It still sucks. You need to have Theo Wold come back on and debate Dave Petzo and talk about how the cost for wages for the working man hasn't really improved since the 70s. The reason why our economy, the reason why we've done so well for so long is because the socialist alternatives weren't appealing at all because you could make more money in the free market. It's not the case anymore. Once again, in the Treasure Valley itself, 10 years ago, I bought my house for around $200,000. It's now worth $400,000. I could do it on the wages that I have. I couldn't do it today. Most people can't. It's failing. If you don't have a second house, you're not living on the plantation golf course, what do you care? This is the part these clueless, feckless boomers don't understand. Like the deal that was sold, it's not there. And I'll give you another example of how bad it is. When all those people at HP lost their jobs, Micron reached out to their skilled technical people. These are, engineer types and, the technical jobs we're supposed to be short of. They offered those people, right. You know what the average wage they offered the now unemployed or going to be unemployed HP workers are, Kevin? Guess what that hourly wage rate was?
I can't.
Any $20 an hour. $20 an hour. Skilled people working at HP, technical positions, $20 an hour. Could you live on that? Can you raise a family on that wage? No, you can't. So, Dave, wake up and smell the coffee, bro. You're so clueless and out of touch. You're not going to see what's coming. And if and the thing too is the reason why people are going socialist is getting a lecture from these boomers that are taking 15% of our income and not, to not work. Like, screw you. And that's why it's so effective. Second thing, I'm really worried about you, Congressman Fulcher, And after playing that Tim Sheehy, you're a victim right now of another psyop plot. You go into Grok.
All right, hang on, Chandler. Hang on, Chandler. We'll let you finish. Allegedly. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Good morning. Joining us here, don't forget, coming up this afternoon, our great friend Lars Larson will join us. Coming up, we'll hear from Jared Halpern of Fox News Radio, live from the White House, get his thoughts on, well, the president yesterday making a lot of speeches concerning vaccinations, also lobbying the president once again to pass voter ID, and a lot of news coming out of Washington, D.C. Of course, nationally, we have this big primary, Alabama, Connecticut, Minnesota, Vermont, Wisconsin, South Carolina primaries. And our thoughts and prayers go to all those who have lost loved ones. You think about Senator Graham and what he lost, and we lost him, and the like, if you will. And again, we had Chandler on last hour, going back and forth. Hopefully Chandler's still there. Cowboy Calvin, we're going to get to you. We'll give Jared a couple more minutes here, and then we'll move on. Again, nonstop calls. And if you miss any portion of the program, there's always the podcast on YouTube, ShmooTube, and everything else. Appreciate people listening to us in Austin, Texas, or Fort Myers, Florida, or Merrimack, New Hampshire. We have the President of the United States being asked about vaccinations. Let's take a listen.
Mr. President, you're a proud father. Would you have vaccinated your children differently based on the recommendations?
Well, I did. I took my children for 5 different vaccinations. In other words, I broke it up. The one visit where they just pump, what seemingly looks like gallons, where they pump so much in. I took all of my children from day one. I believed in this a long time ago. I took them with my wife. I took them through 5 different visits to the doctor. Essentially, they get 20% each, and I had no problem. So it's inconvenient. It's 5 stops, but it's something that I think will have a huge impact on autism. Yeah.
Mr. President, you're proud.
And there we have it. Joining us now, Jared Halpern. Maybe you were in the room. I never want to assume when that went down yesterday. Good morning, sir.
Was not in the room yesterday, but a significant announcement here. This really kind of undoes decades of vaccine policy, of vaccine recommendations. Now, a couple of things I think that are important for listeners. One, this does not require any change to vaccination schedules. Those can still be largely up to states, up to school districts, obviously up to pediatricians and parents. But it changes the CDC's recommended dosage, the recommended schedule, and that can sometimes have an impact on kind of how insurance covers immunizations. And that was something that President Trump was asked about yesterday. You know, he is suggesting that families split up significantly the vaccines that their young children get. That means more visits. That could mean more co-pays. That could mean more appointments. That could mean, more time off of work. All those things that go along with getting a kid right to a pediatrician, to a doctor's office. And so that's something that certainly is going to have to be worked through if there are significant changes. But it's also raised questions and concerns from a lot of medical associations who are suggesting and saying that there is not a lot of research or science to back the concerns that the president and particularly the HHS secretary are putting forward. There has never been a scientific study that has shown a link, for instance, between vaccines and autism. There has not been studies that have shown you're at an increased risk with the MMR vaccine, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. The president wants to split those up. By the way, that's not an option in this country yet, so that's going to have to take the work of pharmaceutical companies and others. So a lot certainly to work through. It's also possible that this could face some sort of lawsuit. There was a previous executive order that the president put through to try and change the vaccine schedule that was blocked by lower courts. So we'll see where this moves forward, but it is certainly generating a lot of talk and a lot of concern from the medical community.
Our great friend Jared Halper joining us. Jared, obviously people are reacting to the story broken by the Washington Post and the New York Times concerning the plane.
This is a big story for a couple of reasons. And I'll talk one kind of just about the presidential security aspect of it. This shows that there was a very big threat that the Secret Service and intelligence agencies were concerned about. To go through these links to show the president boarding an aircraft, sneak him off of that aircraft on a catering truck to a smaller aircraft, and fly without anybody knowing is a significant movement. It is something that has been done previously for presidents when they are in high-risk areas going to, say, Afghanistan or Iraq. I think there was a trip in 2000 where President Clinton went to Pakistan, and there was a lot of concern. So it's not unprecedented in that aspect. What is unprecedented is that there was not a single member of what we would call the White House press pool with President Trump. The press pool is made up of 13 reporters representing radio and TV and still photographers and print, some wire services, and they travel with the president and report on behalf of the entire media. They share all of that information. There have been times where, because of security, because of secrecy, the White House has limited the number of reporters traveling with the president. There have been times where the press pool has had to not say that they're going on a trip or had to keep things very, very secret. Those things have happened before. That was not done in this case. And so it is going to raise questions, certainly from inside the press corps, as I'm a member of kind of how this decision was made, again, how serious this threat was, and why the decision was made not to disclose it after the fact, which sometimes has been done. You may recall during President Biden's term, he made a secret trip to Ukraine. They snuck him in on a train. There were, I think, a couple of reporters with him, and nothing was reported until he was out of the country. So there certainly have been instances in the past where presidents travel completely secretive, under the radar, no one knows, but it's been disclosed afterwards. And again, that wasn't done here. This was a major scoop, obviously, by the Washington Post. I think it's notable as well that so far we've not seen any sort of denial from the White House. In fact, that the White House statements and Air Force statements have suggested that the military aircraft that the president is flying on is safe, has everything that the president needs. That has come under scrutiny. This Qatar jet, right, that they could not fly out of Turkey because of its proximity to Iran. Some of the upgrades we are now told it's going to get. So kind of a lot of tentacles to this story as we continue to learn more about it. But it is extraordinary to go to those lengths, which, again, I think shows how significant a threat was against President Trump, how seriously that was being taken by the Secret Service, by the military, and the lengths to which they were going to do to make sure that the president could want to attend NATO, as an American president always does, and then get him out safely amid all of the threats that clearly the president has been facing. So an extraordinary story that shows, again, these efforts that the Secret Service is undertaking to protect the commander-in-chief.
Jared, we always appreciate you. Thank you for your time, sir.
Sure thing.
Jared Halpern with the very latest. Okay, let's go back to Chandler, who's still mad at 580 KIDO.
Hey, Kev, I appreciate being held over. So there's a psyop that's happening, and I don't want the Kevin Miller audience or Kevin Miller to be duped. Unfortunately, even Russ Fulcher's part of this. They're trying to pitch up the threat of Shia terrorism, and there's some videos that are being shown to members of Congress about somebody being skinned alive, and I think somebody has a drill bit put to their brain and kills them. I think it's in Iraq or whatever. These are classified, so you and I are never going to see them, and we got to trust the military intelligence. The same knuckleheads that said 51 intelligence agencies said Russia interfered. Look, don't take my word for it. Go into the AI tool of your choice and ask a very simple question. Hey, Grok, how many Americans have been killed by Sunni terrorism versus Shia terrorism? And what you're going to find out is, for Shia, it's less than 900. If you're looking at Sunni, it's off the charts. 9/11, over 3,000 people hurt and killed here domestically. Fort Hood, Sunni. Once again, much people killed there. Pulse nightclub shooting. That guy was a Sunni. The thing in San Bernardino was Sunni. So we have an issue with not Shia terrorism. It's Sunni terrorism. That's the real threat. And, you know, the malarkey about, once again,
then how do you describe Chandler, those people wanting to kill us, the Ayatollah for 47 years?
You mean the Democrats?
All these things. These
you mean
people
the Democrats, Kevin?
No, the Iranians.
Well, once again, the numbers don't add up. The numbers don't add up. 9/11, Sunni. Pulse nightclub shooting, Sunni. Fort Hood, military base attack, Sunni. The office shooting in San Bernardino, Sunni. The domestic terrorist acts hasn't been Shia. It's been Sunni. That's the threat. I mean, look, look, go into Grok, look at it. Don't fall for the malarkey, Kev. You know, and the thing too, hearing Congressman Sheehy talk and all that, every argument he made, I could make about the Democratic Party and their allies in America here right now. The sitting Attorney General in Virginia had celebrated and championed the death of his opponent, wanted to piss on their grave and their kid's grave. This guy is here domestically. That's the threat. I mean, where's the justice for all the Trump supporters that daily have to deal with this crap? Like, the problem are the Democrats here. They're doing every threat that you're talking about. I don't care about the land dispute and the Shia and anything. I care about every argument that guy makes is true for the Democrats here domestically in America, what they're doing to us, what they're doing to you. And if you want to go la land and fight the wrong people, you know, once again, the numbers don't add up. Look at the numbers. Like, I'm sorry, all right, don't go full retard. I mean, if 900 is a greater threat than the 3,000 that were hurt in 9/11, if that's how you see the world, I'm sorry, there are no pills to fix that. Like, don't go full retard, Kev. Man, I mean, don't buy it. The numbers do not add up. Any questions?
Chandler, thank you for the call. We appreciate that, and we apologize for his use of the R word. We're very sensitive to that word, and that's not me being politically correct. That's my own personal view. Let's go to Cowboy Calvin. I hope he's still there with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. Cowboy, thank you for your patience. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. Good morning, American. My, there's a lot to talk about today, Kevin. I first of all, I want to address the rodeo coming up here in Caldwell, which starts next week, and I want to encourage people to buy their tickets sooner than later because it's always a sellout. It's a very good family get-together and very entertaining. You got a situation of sports where men are men and women are women.
Well, we look forward to that. What is your favorite part of the rodeo?
I have no favorite. Of course, I have some prejudice, you know. I had events I competed with, but that it doesn't make it any more or less, you know. It's what I enjoy doing. It's all entertaining, you know. People like bull riding. Other people like the barrel racing, see the gals perform. It's a wonderful event. A lot of things happening. And I want to touch that they have a buckaroo breakfast in the morning, which is well worth the trip into town to have a good breakfast.
I think they're doing that from either Tuesday or Wednesday on. They do it 4 or 5 days there in Caldwell.
Right. It starts out first few days is slack, which they compete to enter the rodeo, and then that's free, I believe, to go in there and watch the slack, and then it starts off Thursday and goes through Saturday in the evening, of course.
Well, again, where the Cowboys are the stars, the Caldwell Night Rodeo.
Well, it's not the Cowboys; it's the Cowgirls also. Let's give them some credit, okay?
If you say so, I'll follow your lead.
I'm a baby boomer, Generation 1. I've sworn allegiance to this country, Kevin, and a lot of people claim to be Americans, but they have no allegiance. That's a problem. United we stand and divided we fall. And people got to realize that there's a balance. And, you know, as people being in relationships, you have to work with that other person. And if you don't work and have that natural balance, then trouble occurs. And, you know, the world's problems faces that. And there's a lot of predators out there. You can call them what they want. You know, the gentleman that just spoke, you know, said, well, this and that. But a lot of the facts are not covered up. Eyewitness Antiva going at it. They use innocent people on the front lines and hid behind those people. And it is true that innocent people get hurt in war.
I would agree. Cowboy Calvin, God bless. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
It depends on the range of income that someone is making. For billionaires, I think that billionaires should be taxed out of existence. There's far too much money that is concentrated among the wealthy few.
You want to empower the government to take from the most creative providers, the most brilliant people in our country. Now, I don't know many billionaires that are self-made that are stupid. Do you? I don't know any.
Well, I think that in the case of someone like Elon Musk, he's taken billions of dollars in government subsidies and government handouts to enrich his further wealth, and he
also rescued astronauts that were abandoned by Joe Biden. I'm sure you're grateful for Elon's contribution there, right? I'm grateful for that.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk didn't even start his own company. He just bought it out, and this is, you know, someone.
Okay, but I'm sure you are grateful that he rescued astronauts that Joe Biden abandoned in space 200 and some odd days.
Sean, I'm not really sure what you're speaking to. The International Space Station, I think
I'm talking about the guys that needed to be rescued, and Joe Biden did nothing, and Elon Musk rescued them.
Classic Sean Hannity. And this is going back to the beginnings of Hannity. And you think to yourself, well, what makes Sean so good? And that's why we have him on 1 to 4 here at 580 KIDO. He's years and years ago, when people actually had dialogue, even before Hannity and Combs, Sean is always the best when he's debating people. And did you see the trap? Did you hear the trap that the loon went into? And these Democratic socialists, they don't understand they're dealing with the master. They're dealing with a guy that knows the system, knows our political process, a patriot. All he does is hang out with the sensei and train and learn the issues and talk to the big people and bring the truth to us. So this guy out of Florida just doesn't have a chance.
Out of every dollar these so-called evil rich people make, how much should they be able to keep?
Yeah, how much should we be able to keep? How much should we be able to keep, sir? You heard that one. One more from Sean.
To each American based on their needs, from each American based on their ability. Do you support that?
I think that's a fine concept.
Do you know who said that first? You don't, do you?
Inform me.
I will inform you.
Ooh.
A guy by the name of Karl Marx. All right, here to try and defend his, agenda, Florida Democratic congressional candidate Oliver Larkin. I do appreciate you coming on. I do. Let's pick up where we left off on my radio show. So I ask you, to each according to their need, from each American according to their ability. And I ask you, well, who said that? You did not know that it was Karl Marx. Have you had time to think about that?
Hold on. Have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and they're the Sean Hannity or you've been the Sean Hannity? Now, I gave you, like a teacher, I gave you an assignment to do, and you clearly did not do it. Now, we all know you clearly did not do it. Did you not want to do it, couldn't do it, wouldn't do it, shouldn't do it? Are you kidding me?
I've been focusing on meeting the people of our district, and I'm not coming at this from a theoretical point of view. I'm coming at this race from a pragmatic point of view of what the American people and the people of South Florida need, and that is Medicare for all, that is universal child care, that is the policy proposals that you just articulated on your show. This is what people, working class people, Democrats, Republicans.
And there we have it. So we'll have much more on that, more of your calls. Don't forget some great articles on our website. Do you live in one of Idaho's most dangerous cities? We have that for you right now at KIDOTalkRadio.com, which is your home for Fox News. Almost, 25 years, over 20 years, Fox News right here on 580 KIDO. Fox News Now, 580 KIDO. You think about these socialists. It could be a big day for Hong in Wisconsin, and just what they say and how they're doing it is, it gives us purpose. Back to the president, though. I do want to, because vaccinations are still such a point of contention here in the state of Idaho, making this announcement yesterday, and loved having Jared Halpern on live from the White House to talk about it.
Mr. President, you're a proud father. Would you have vaccinated your children differently based on the recommendations?
Well, I did. I took my children for 5 different vaccinations. In other words, I broke it up. The one visit where they just pump, what seemingly looks like gallons, where they pump so much in. I took all of my children from day one. I believed in this a long time ago. I took them with my wife. I took them through 5 different visits to the doctor. Essentially, they get 20% each, and I had no problem. So it's inconvenient. It's 5 stops, but it's something that I think will have a huge impact on autism. Yeah.
And there we have it. Now the liberal loons are going crazy because the president's saying, we're going to look at the research, we're going to be objective, and we're going to go counter to the narrative. Now, remember, the president was elected to reform how we vaccinate, how we do a lot of things. And people say, well, Kevin Miller, he hasn't kept his word. Yes, he has kept his word with RFK and everybody else. So I'm sure the president will have much more. The one thing about this administration is they do not let the media set the narrative for them. So we will hear what he has to say concerning a story we first brought you, broken by the Washington Post, New York Times, right here at 580 KIDO, was the situation in Turkey was so bad that the president had to peace out. Now, people are calling him names and all sorts of things. But, and let's see, you have a lot of former White House people, both Democrat and Republicans, saying, look, we had to be secretive. When the president went to Iraq, a war zone, a few times, when he went to, Ukraine and all these other places, you have to have, as they say in the military, OPSEC, operational security. And when you have the OPSEC going on, if there's a real-life legitimate threat, it's not a movie. It's not Homeland. It's not Madam Secretary. It is simply the bottom line here is what would have happened if they would have been successful. You want to talk about World War III, and as Cowboy Calvin has said and others, when you get on these planes, whether it's a military operation or not, you are basically, you're saying, look, it's beyond my control. When you go into a war zone, and maybe if you're a combatant, maybe if you're not a combatant, you sign a waiver. Your life insurance policy doesn't cover you in the war zone. Your insurance policies don't cover you in the war zone. At least that's been my firsthand experience when, having been embedded with the troops both in Idaho and in North Carolina. More on Ouchie Fauci. The left continues to try to defend him. We'll take your calls on vaccinations. We'll take your calls on what the president has done and your reaction.
These text messages relating to possible miscarriages, January 25th, 2021. Dr. Fauci, I asked around a bit more, and another issue came up that you need to be aware of. Since many people have these significant cytokine storms and fever after a second dose, this theoretically could be associated with miscarriage in the first trimester. CDC director, definitely a good point, especially after dose 2. Publicly, he was saying something different, and that is where the senators are pointing right now in their first release of these text messages.
Dr. Fauci really fancied himself as the ideal public servant, that he was the voice of science, but I think what we're learning is he was a real miscarriage of justice. I just don't understand how, at a time as sensitive and raw as COVID was for the American people, he couldn't have publicly said, we don't know all the facts, we have a lot of doubts. This is not a requirement for everybody because of the doubts we have. He also delivered a miscarriage of justice by taking the fifth at the hearing last week. These are legitimate questions. Maybe his answers are good answers. Maybe that was such an outlier. Maybe he dismissed it on the basis of science. He could have explained that at the hearing. Instead, we're left with evidence that casts a real doubt on so many of the things he said. And we already know he told us that he made up the 6-foot rule. There was no scientific basis.
Fauci made up the 6-foot rule.
For that, when we were told to be 6 feet apart, he already publicly acknowledged there was no science to that. He should have answered the questions the Congress had.
But it's become too partisan, and you have people that continue to defend ouchie Fauci. And that's Ari Fletcher, hardly a Trump guy, former communications chief with the Bush administration. And like I said, you know, we have those debates all the time here in Idaho. The president of the United States issuing new executive orders concerning what to do, how to do it, that sort of thing. And again, the media continues to react to it. I personally, I like what the president said yesterday, that the Democrats are electing jihadists. More coming up next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. And most notably, looking at the primaries today, the left going crazy, and you think to yourself, when are they actually going to cheer for the team? If you missed any of the program today, including our great friend Dennis Mansfield, you can check him out by taking a look at the podcast, which is always wonderful and exciting. Do want to thank our friends at Beacon Plumbing. Yesterday, I've been telling you about my challenges here with my system, or our system. I guess it's a collective entity when you're married. We decided to, because it's been a heck of a summer, specifically the air. And so when the air is bad, it's going to impact your filter. So we called our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They came over. Remember, plumbing, septic, HVAC, electric, gas. They serve the areas. They could take care of everything. Gentleman came by, very professional. Mr. Miller said, hey, could you look at this toilet? My father-in-law, otherwise known as my dad, took a look at, said, is there leaking going on? Said, yeah, there's some damage there. They coordinated everything with our man, Brant. Brant came out, put in a humidifier to get rid of the, small mold that was there. The Beacon Plumbing crew came out on time, professional, above board yesterday. Very nice, very friendly. Again, what above and beyond, putting the toilet back in and said, you got to let that wait 24 hours before you can use that toilet again. And again, we're a plumbing show, so I'm just giving you my firsthand reporting of Beacon Plumbing yesterday. And then they went above and beyond and said, let's just take a look around. They looked at our refrigerator. They actually went into the crawl space and found a small leak and fixed that for us as well. Truly, when they say stop freaking, quit freaking, call Beacon, heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, I highly recommend them. 974-5031. That's 974-5031. And I will tell you, they were just very amazing yesterday. Smiles. And I said, boy, I wish I worked at Beacon Plumbing. They do such a great job. So check them out today. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. You can call them. A very friendly person answers the phone locally, or you can schedule an appointment by simply going to beaconplumbing.com. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We go to Ron Grant, who joins us now on 580-KIDO.
Paid for by Ron Grant,
morning,
your
Ron.
safer money specialist.
Hello, Ron.
Hello, buddy. How you doing today?
Well, pretty good. Let's talk a little bit about taking care of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and money. How do you keep your money safe, Ron?
Hey, we got to do it, buddy. Many people work 35, 40 years, Kevin, for retirement, and that money is their dignity money. That's the money that they save to take care of themselves and their family. And my clients and I, we sleep at night knowing that our money is 100% protected from the risk and the fees of the Wall Street casino. And the market's up, the market's down, the market's sideways. But my clients and I have a guaranteed lifetime income that we can't outlive. And if we're married, when one spouse passes, the other spouse gets that income for the rest of their life. And when they pass, whatever left goes to the beneficiaries. You know, Kevin, it's so important to have a systematic pension. A lot of companies don't provide pensions anymore, but I hope my clients get a systematic pension for the rest of their life.
Well, Ron, how can people get a hold of you and figure this out and have a conversation and not you talking at them, but actually listening to them, sir?
Well, that's the important thing. That's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, is to listen, ask questions and listen. I've got a great educational website, Kevin, that they can go on 24/7, safermoneyspecialist.com. Education for you at your leisure. And then we also can have a phone conversation right here in the Treasure Valley about how to protect your dignity money 100% safe and give you a lifetime income. And that number is 208-660-1372.
Ron, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you, buddy. Have a good day.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your Safer Money specialist.
We go to Donald Trump's biggest fan, Jim in Star, on 580 KIDO.
What is happening? Good morning, brother. How are you?
Like a lot of us, still here. Surprisingly,
Still here.
Tragically, inspiring. Take your pick.
Well, thanks for everything you do. As always, everybody here appreciates you. And God, how did I get labeled as his biggest fan? I mean, gosh, if you just call spades for spades these days, you're automatically the enemy, right? It's just, I mean, here's the thing. You know, I know, everybody knows, Idahoans especially know that taking the jab was the wrong thing to do. I'll bring up a name that everybody can look up. Kyle Warner, who's here from the Treasure Valley, a champion, winning cyclist. The guy was an amazing athlete, one of the best in the world on 2 wheels. And the COVID vaccination ruined his career, gave him myocarditis, and he could no longer do the sport that he was one of the best in the world at doing. And, it's just sad. It's really sad that people were pushed into that. People were scared into that. Senior citizens were panicking like crazy. It's a terrible thing that happened, and Fauci's definitely the key ringman for that. And Fauci's going to pay the price. Will he pay here on Earth and we get to see it? Probably not. I mean, look, the Clintons are still walking free every day. So I don't have any hope that anybody is going to ever be prosecuted in our lifetime, at least not with the current administration or maybe the next to follow. But again, our president, the guy I voted for 3 times, he just can't keep his mouth shut. And there's times where he needs to have discernment, and there's times where he needs to stop commenting on everything that's going on, whether it's something that TMZ and the National Enquirer should be covering or something that's important that maybe he should be talking about. But where he really screwed up, Kevin, big time, and where they're going to use it against him in the coming elections is Donald Trump couldn't stop himself from taking credit for the COVID vaccination. We all know that. Anybody with 2 eyes and 2 ears, or an ear and an eye, saw that, heard that. I remember him stepping in front of Fauci, which isn't hard to do, and telling the world that it's him that fast-tracked it, that put it out so we could get it quickly into our systems. That's going to come back. It's already coming back to haunt him. Anybody that actually will do a little research or go on to different websites than the same one they look at every single day can see that the left is already using that against Trump, and it was a dumb, idiotic move that he made to talk about fast tracking a jab that has ruined the lives of many people and still continues to come back and haunt people and ruin the health that they once had. And I know there's a ton of conservatives that listen. I'm a conservative myself, whether people want to believe it or not. And If they call in and say that that didn't happen, or they call in and say that that's a lie, they're completely insane, because you remember it, I remember it, and millions of others remember it, and it's going to haunt him, and he's just got to stop it. I mean, it's just like when this deal with the reflection pool happened, and he went on TV to tell everybody that there was a 350-foot cut from a box cutter. Right when he said the distance, the length of the cut, I instantly knew he's out of his mind. If someone's going to go vandalize anything, they're not going to take the time to make a 350-foot cut. Anybody that knows anything about a pool and a pool that's a seamed vinyl pool knows that the seams, they failed, they gave way. But he goes and says these stupid things, Kevin, and all he's doing is burying himself, and he's making himself look ridiculous. And like I've said for the last year, let JD do the talking, because JD's a much better speaker, and people can relate, and people can, they can pick up what he's putting down. And JD's humble. He doesn't brag every 5 seconds. He doesn't tell you how great he is. I voted for a businessman. I voted for a guy who used to get things done in the business world. And now all I see is a compromised politician that's fighting wars for other countries because the donors are in the hundreds of millions of dollars to him, and that's all that he cares about these days. And actually, it's a pretty sad thing. The state of affairs right now with our country and where things are heading is ugly, and I expected so much more from our leadership, and we're just not getting it. But again, to say that he fast-tracked the jab that has ruined the lives of millions of people, it's going to come back and haunt him. And I want to ask you this: do you agree with me or do you disagree?
I think the president gets credit for everything he did during his administration.
Okay. Very well said. Very well said. And that credit could be the wrong kind of credit, but I appreciate your time, buddy. And I got a gift for you, so give me a shout.
For a good time, call Jim.
You're right. You take care. Have a good one.
You too. We go to Lee Joe, who joins us now at 580 KIDO. Hello, Lee Joe.
Howdy. Yeah, Jim's interpretation is not entirely wrong. I think he's, there's a lot of rose-colored glasses out there that will scapegoat what Trump said during COVID and blame it on somebody else or something. There's always some excuse maker. And at the end, like the desk says, the buck stops there. And this vaccine thing, I told you during COVID that my friends who were nurses in OBGYN wards had a massive upkick in miscarriages. And, we just carried on, let the little babies die. No big deal. No big deal. Satan took over. Satan is doing his best to continue to take over. And if you don't recognize it, then there is no hope. Going back to Chandler's point, Sunnis kill lots of Americans on American soil. Iranians kill lots of Americans worldwide. And I don't even think we should be dividing. I think we should just recognize that there's a violent sect of Islam, which there always has been since, our country was like 12 years old, and we were fighting the Barbary pirates who were what? They were the Mohammedans. They were the Muslims. Don't know if they were Sunni or Shiite. Haven't looked that hard, but we have to recognize that, when Grok tells you X number was killed by terrorists in the United States, that's the United States. I'm talking about worldwide. The entire cult is killing and destroying people who would otherwise have their own agency. And yeah, we're the United States. We're like the only country that goes and fights for other people's liberty, even when we're not specifically threatened. It's something we do. It's an understanding that agency, that freedom are a God-given right to every man on earth. And, you know, we got this big problem now where we're deporting all the Mexicans, or, you know, and the much bigger threat is the non-Christian groups here that are espousing Muslim fascism and your death. But let's get rid of all that. Let's deport them. But all the legal immigrants from whatever Syria or whatever African country that are over here still wearing their hijab, et cetera, they still wish you dead. I can't say that for the Mexican or the you know, the laborer that comes over and wants an opportunity to work. We are just shooting ourselves in the head at this point. And it's your government, the post-constitutional society of bureaucrats, has decided that this is for your greater good, that socialism is for, you know, you had Hannity talking about the guy not being able to recognize Marxism. Well, Brad Little believes in the same stuff. He wants socialized health care. He voted for it. He wanted it. And it's so that he could subsidize the wages of employees, and so people wouldn't have to pay as much for health care and stuff like that. He's got no problem with many of these communist ideals. Like Chandler's pointing out, we have massive socialist problems, but people will collect from the system because, well, that's what you do. It's just what you do, and it's accepted. And I'm for putting all your money into a 401k instead of putting a drop in Social Security. But those are the problems, Kevin. It's all of Islam is the problem, and all those Iranian IEDs with shaped charges, armor penetrating charges. 1,200 dead Israelis. It just goes on. And then the propaganda from Iran, the propaganda that says that all Jews are evil. It's just Satan taking over the world. Let's start the above ground nuclear testing in remote spots in Iran. They want a nuclear weapon. Let's show them a nuclear weapon. Let them have one. It just might happen to detonate in a desolate desert, and show them what it looks like. And then ask the people of Iran, is this the bomb you want?
All right, Lee Joe, thank you for the call. We don't leave anybody behind. Here he is, late to the ball game today, batting cleanup. TPB on 580 KIDO.
I wasn't late to the ball game. I called in the right time. You're late to getting me on. That's the problem. Anyway, let me just get to the nitty-gritty. I do enjoy listening to our KIDO armchair politicians like Jim and Lee Joe, and I only hope that Fauci gets his just due for all the people he harmed. Thank you for playing the speech by Jim Sheehy, as this is a speech that every American needs to hear. He really hit the nail on the head and is right about President Trump being the first president willing to take on this task of disarming this twisted jihadist radicals who want to destroy America and Israel. All we hear from the liberal media is, when will the war end? How much is the war costing? Aren't we running out of missiles and drones? This is an enemy that has serious and is a serious threat to the destruction of our country if they ever get a nuclear device. While the Iranians are dangerous, I think that our liberal media is even more dangerous, spreading their propaganda and continually criticizing the president for what he has done. It's always he's done nothing good for the country. Well, I have to say that they're all full of it. For all those complainers who don't like what is happening in our country, I challenge you to find someplace else to live. That is better than what you have here, because you live in the freest country in the world, where opportunity abounds and anyone with a will to become a success has the opportunity to do it. This movement to socialism is not new, and every so often it rears its ugly head. But as I said, it has never worked in the history of the world. So why would anyone with a little knowledge of history think it would work here? Let me just add a little something to the comments I made yesterday about the young people who think that socialism is better than what we have. We all make choices in this world. Some of them are good, some bad. While I'm a boomer, my life was mostly living hand to mouth during my formative years. But it didn't stop me from becoming successful. I'm not going to go through all of the troubles I had to deal with because it would take too long. Do I feel bad about those 20-somethings who have to live with their parents? Sure I do. But there is an old saying, if the world gives you lemons, make lemonade. No one said that life was fair. Did these kids get screwed with high college tuitions and a promise of success if they got a degree? Of course they did. But again, it was their choice to do what they did. I look at the guy who got out of high school, went to work with a plumber, electrician, or mechanic, got his licenses, and is now making $100,000 a year in their own business. Success isn't about the amount of education you have or what school you went to or how much you owe for doing it. It's all about making the right choices and putting your entire effort into the choice you make. Heck, I started out on Wall Street right out of the service making $68 a week. You know, that's not exactly a lot of money, my friend. I was 27 and I was a partner in a brokerage firm, but I was working 12, 14 hours a day. Did I work my butt off to get there? Yes. You bet I did. But that was with a wife and child. And at the time, the max rate on taxes was 70%. So stop complaining about the Social Security you're paying for, because it's a mere pittance as to what we used to pay. I'm tired of listening to the crybabies who made bad choices. America is the land of opportunity, but only if you make good choices. And many of those who are living with their parents today did not make good choices. And I thank you very much for my time, my friend.
Tea Party Bob, you can catch his work at the gemstatepatriot.com. Good day, God bless, keep the faith, and Kevin Miller loves you.